Boom, 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 boom. I don't even know. Mike. Mike. Check. Mike. Mike check. Be quiet, guy. In the background, be quiet. Let me see. Wait a minute. How did that cut down? Yerba. What up, Yerba? Oh, my speakers ain't even on. It's messed up. I don't think my speakers are on. They might be. Hey, Farrah. Old school. Boom. Okay, my speakers are on. What's going on, old school? Yerba Buena Garden in the building. Faircast Love. Hey, mama. Hey, mama. Hey. Oh, we got 3 in here. All right. 5 points. Plus viewers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Gang. What up? Cannabeard. Cannabeard grows. Now you just wrote something like just in the nick of time. You became a billionaire. I usually wait till 3 people are in here before I hit that button. Give out some points in the chat room. To go to the chat room. Can you guys hear that music in the background? Anybody? Can you guys hear the music in the background? Yes, no, maybe. Maybe so. Can you guys hear me? Is my audio okay? Can you hear me? My little piece of heaven says hi. I'm here trying to figure out how to get happy again. It's been nothing but bad things all week. No! Don't worry, be happy, says my little piece of heaven. You're fine. Ha ha. I know, right? You come in like just in the nick of time because Fair's fearing down, and then you came in with your song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Don't worry, be happy. Anyways, guys. Oh, snaps. Peekaboo. Oh, hey. I just got off work and I'm eating. But I got some mail today. And I figured I'd do a mail call. Or maybe a giveaway. I don't know. It's a mail call for sure though. Brooklyn, what up, Brooke? I'm eating my fries full of preservatives. My deep fried fries. Saturated fat-filled potatoes. Can't hear you, bruh? You can hear me, man. Stop playing. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Bruh. I'm cool like that. I'm chill like, man, I done missed my whole song. Trying to figure out if y'all can hear me. Go back. Play that song. One more time. Go back. Can you guys hear my music though? I'm gonna get no copyrights. Job 411, can you hear my music in the background? Farrah, somebody, can you guys hear my music in the background? Can you guys hear my music in the background? Yay, nay, maybe say. I don't even know. I see you. Can't hear no tunes. You're nice and clear though. Y'all hear your music in the background. I'm so lost. Let me turn it down one more bar, see if I can still hear it after. Okay, I'll turn it down. Hopefully you guys can hear it. Even though you should. I should be able to play music and not get penalized by the YouTube law enforcement system, code, whatever. Thingamabopper G. French fries. Who likes French fries in the chat room? Is there anybody in the chat room that dips their French fries in ranch like I do? Ranch and French fries. I wouldn't put ranch on a baked potato, but I sure dip my French fries in some ranch. Anybody in the chat room? What up, Punchy Loke? Punchy Loke. Punchy Loke's my guy, my guy. Let's go down here, man. See if we've got any new subscribers. In a while. It's been a while since I've had any subscribers, man. I'm just playing. It ain't been that long. We got 2 subscribers 2 days ago. So, Mark Carter, thank you for joining the fam bam. Mark Carter. Mark Carter has officially joined the SparkzAlot family, guys. If you guys ever see him in the chat room, say hi. Excuse me. Also, Tom Spillane, I don't know how to say his last name. Spillane. We're just gonna call him Tom. Tom, like Tom. Tom Spillane has joined the fam bam as well, Bill. Tom Spillane, welcome to the fam bam. The American one. Shout out to the American one, man. You know, there's not a lot of people out there that are very truthful. They'll tell you one thing and then you'll be waiting, or you'll figure out they was asshole wrong. Not the American one. The American one says, hey, yo, bro, I got you. Or, hey, yo, sis, I got you. Boom, he gonna take care of it. You ain't even gotta. You can't even blink your eye. By the time you open your eye, by the time you get your eye halfway shut, the American one's already working on it. It's like, ping, 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 ping. Anyways, today's mail call is brought to you by the American one. He's in the chat room. If you guys don't know who he is, and you're curious to know, I might have this link right here. Well, I don't even have to put his link in the chat room because he's in the chat room. Go check him out. Click that go to channel button over there in the menu on the side. You know, if you're on the mobile phone, should be 3 little dots like on the side of his name somewhere. Or you can just click on his name and it might take you straight to his channel. You already know where I'm at, so you can come back. But go check out the American one, man, because it's pretty nifty dude. Quite rad, if you know what I mean. Rad. Do they still use rad anymore? Who is this they that I speak of? I don't know. Those guys? Yous guys. Once again, shout out to Mark Carter and Tom Spillane for joining the fam bam. Now let's get on to the regularly scheduled program. Click on my IG link in my YouTube profile and check me out too. Yes, who else came in the chat room? Teresa, Green, and Nyla. I don't know if that's Nilla, like Nilla wafers, or if that's Nyla, or it could be Nila. I don't know. Nilla Jean, the red-nosed bully. Is that a pit bull? Is that Teresa and a pit bull named Nyla? I have no idea. But thank you for being here. Stony, my grandpa is here, ladies and gentlemen. Stony Baker. I call him Stony Baker Maid. I don't know why. The MD stands for Mad some shit. Mad Dad. I'm just playing. It's Mad Dabber. Stony Mad Dabber. Baker Maid. I forgot. Shit. Whatever. You gotta say hey to my grandpa. He brought the entertainment. Okay? Cocktails. Oh yeah, I would have an IG page, Tao, but SparkzAlot won't help me. Yeah, blame it on SparkzAlot. Blame it on. Okay, I'm gonna make your IG page. All right, you got to send me a picture though for your IG profile. If not, I'm just gonna put a unicorn with glitter and sprinkle farts coming out his behind. A gold unicorn. with rainbow glitter and sprinkly farts coming out of this behind. Rainbow glitter, sprinkly farts. I'm just playing. I've been called worse. Sparks is okay. What do you mean? Did I call you something bad? I didn't mean to call you something bad. Can you guys do me a favor? Can you hit that share button down there? Down there. Down there. Look behind, but look below all these scrolling names of the donors. Super shout out to you guys. Look below there. There should be a thing that says share. You hit that button, and then you can tell everybody that we're live, man. You can tell them that SparkzAlot, this crazy mother sucker. Mother sucker! He's live. But, yeah, hit that share button. Don't forget to hit one of them thumbs, either the like button or the dislike button. Really don't matter to me. What matters to me is you participate. Okay? You'll participate. RX Mason is in the house. I saw somebody else come in here and I didn't say hi to him. Mr. Greenbody. The hell? Who that? Who there? Who there? Who there? Who there? Who there? Who there? Who? Oh, you sent me a picture real fast. That was hilarious. Like the speediness of that picture sending. Good Lord, is that a? I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Got the chat room like, wait a minute. What kind of picture is that? I don't know. It's just a regular picture. You guys want to know something? I met a legend today. I had to go to work. And I was happy to get to work. Then I got to work and I was mad. I'm like, wait a minute. The only reason why I wasn't mad, I was kind of upset though, because I was taking down the 2019 Bud Tenders Awards in Las Vegas. Okay? The only reason why I was kind of mad is because I didn't set the show up. Like, y'all gonna bring me in here to tear this shit down? But I couldn't have came in and put it up with you. Like, I wanted to get some put up money too, just not to tear out money. I want some put up money. Anyway, it's the Bud Tender Awards. I'm Mr. Motherfucking Marijuana, man. I couldn't have put this show up, maybe made some contacts, all that other good shit. I couldn't get none of that, man. I was mad. I'm just playing. I did bump into His Highness. I'm playing. I seen that nigga Jackie 420. He almost walked by me like he didn't know who the fuck I was and shit. Like, for real, bro. Jackie, just gonna walk by me all on the phone and shit like, oh, I really seen, what's his chick name? I forgot his chick name, but I seen her first. And I was looking. Then I seen him kind of like creep up behind her a little bit and shit. And I was looking. I'm like, is that Jackie? And then I seen his tats and shit. I'm like, Jackie. But this old lady noticed me, like, when I said Jackie, she stopped and turned and, you know, was waiting. And Jackie kept walking for a little while. And then she called him again, like, nigga, don't act like you don't know who the I am, bruh. Come on, man. I see how you do me. You don't got all big and shit. Now you don't. Anyway, whole nother story. The legend that I met today was not Jackie 420. Although he's a cool guy. He's a pretty cool guy. He's a pretty cool guy. Let's go over here. Come on, guy, go that way. I don't know what's up with my camera right now, but oh, that was on screenshots. That's what it was. Anyways, I met this guy today. I don't know if y'all can even see him. If you know who he is, you're probably cool. If you don't know who he is, I don't think you're cool. But this guy's a legend. And I'm just fucking with you, Jackie, man. I love you, bro. You did kind of walk by me today, low-key, like you didn't know who I was, dog. A tear was gonna come out my eye like, big time! Come here, big time! I can't get a hug, man. What's up, dog? How you been, big time? I'm just kidding. I love you, Jackie. I love the whole cannabis community in general. But, yeah, that's Freeway Ricky, motherfucking Ross, baby! I asked that nigga, I was like, man, did you think you was gonna be here, like, a couple of years ago, 10, 20 years ago, did you think you was going to be out, nigga, doing cannabis conventions and expos and shit? He was like, hell no, youngster. I was like, OG, triple O, double O. I get a picture with you, man. I ain't really a celebrity with all that other shit, but when you bump in it, man, that boy used to push more coke than a mother. Here to oversee. I'm just playing. Yeah. Freeway Ricky Ross. He's so popular, somebody had to take his name. Rick Ross, Mr. CO. Rick Ross the rapper is not the real Rick Ross. It's not. The big dude, nope, he got his name from that guy right there. I shook that man's hand today. Cool as hell. Freeway Ricky Ross, what up, Goliath? Josh Warrior, Brooklyn, RX Mason, Stony, Sparks did, wait. Did I walk through the hood with a big ass boombox on my shoulder in the 90s? Nah, not really. I ain't never had no big boombox and shit. Like, my boombox was the car. I hop in the car and listen to the radio and shit. I was like 95. I got my license permit 95, 96. It was over. Mid 90s. But before that, no. I used to keep like an MP3 player or a CD player or a Walkman. Like, as time progressed, I kept some music on, and I love me some music, guy. The real Rick Ross, baby. Goliath Gore. What up, man? Congratulations on your channel success, bro. Shout out to the Michiganja Misfits. I think that's y'all name, Michiganja Misfits. Michiganja. I'm sorry I'm eating, y'all. I ain't ate nothing. This is my dinner. Yeah, anyways, French fries, dipped in ranch. Don't tell nobody. Y'all can hear that music in the background, huh? That shit is loud. How you get louder and I ain't pressing no volume button, man? Go down. I turned it down, I promise. YouTube, I don't own none of the rights to the music, man. You gonna kick me off or whatever, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You can give all these song music artists all the little pennies that I make on this video if I even make any money. They can have it, man. All the little pennies. Whew, that shit got on my lip right there. I do that ranch on my fry. I know that's right, man. That's some solid. The American one. He must know this is my favorite color. Right here. He was like, dude, I'm gonna get Sparks the purple envelope because he's always hollering at I love purple shit. I sure do, man. Thanks. As you guys can see, the accents in the chat room are purple. Yes, purple. It's the color of passion, ladies, and royalty. Royalty, yes, like passion and royalty. I really emphasize to the ladies, though, that my favorite color represents passion. Okay? It means I'm a lover, not a fighter, guys. I'm a lover. Hi, Heaven. Hi. Oh, I don't want to show. Okay, your address ain't on here, so it don't really matter. I don't know what's in here, but it's kind of beefy. Now for the pudding, because I ate my meat. Pudding. Purple equals Prince. Well, Prince like purple, but I'm pretty sure he like purple because he know what the hell it represented. It represents. No bullshit. Ask Google. Hey Google, what does the color purple represent? My shit's so loud. I mean, soft. Y'all can't even hear. Hold up. Hey Google, turn volume to 100%. Hey Google, what does the color purple represent?
On the website borncreative.com, they say the color purple is often associated with royalty, nobility, luxury, power, and ambition. Do you want a little more context?
No. I want to know why that bitch ain't say passion. It's the color of passion, too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you not being cheesy. I love you. Oh, you ain't got no response? Story of my life. I'm always telling people I love them and they don't tell me the shit back, man. Oh shit, I'm on camera still, my bad. How can you eat your pudding if you don't eat your meats? I don't even know what the hell that means. What does that mean? Oh shit. What y'all know about this shit? I gotta play it for a minute, man. Y'all don't know nothing about that, man. They gonna kick me off of YouTube, but Ice Cube? Come on, man. Y'all don't know nothing about that, man. When Cube was in the Jag, cruising the strip like, yeah. Stop playing. Stop playing, Sparks. Okay, that's a piece of paper in here. Oh, shit. For real, that's how you feel, bro? Whoa, wait. I know that's right. I'm gonna get a marker and color a little bit. I'm just The American one sent me some Amy Aces a while back, and I guess he created a sticker. Now, this is an 18 and over channel, so if white girls in bikinis offend you, you might want to look the other way, okay? Giving you 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, 0 seconds. White girls in bikinis. This is Amy Aces. Amy mother freaking Aces. I almost thought it said Amy's asses, but it does say Amy Aces. Amy Ace. Anyways. Man, oh man. Did you just put 1 sticker in here, you stingy mother? Wait a minute. I think I might. Holy shit, ladies and gentlemen. What? I just want to put this motherfucking thing on my hat right now. Can I put it on my hat right now? I shave my head too, so my head's nice and fresh and bald for y'all, so I don't have to have my hat on today because it's not all scruffaluffagus up there. Like scruffaluffagus, I'm just gonna put this shit on my hair right now. Like, wait a minute. Don't poke yourself. Woo! I almost poked myself, guys. Don't tell no motherfucking body. Bam! I don't know if I put it somewhere where y'all can see it at or not. Ooh, I put it right on my forehead. Now I look like a doctor with a light on the top of my head, trying to get ready to do surgery. Amy Aces, ladies and gentlemen. I got a motherfucking pen. Look at that. Y'all can have a sticker. You can have a slap. Because I got the pen. What y'all don't know about that pen, man? Look, let me see what else is in here, man. Let me venture off back into the package. Ooh. You should draw a big curl on your forehead to scoop on what? Scoop on chicks. Oh shit, I got more slaps. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. So we got cuatro más. Cuatro más. These are some pretty nice stickers, man. Where you get these slaps made at, guy? This big one's pretty flossy though. It's got like a different. This is like vinyl, but it's like a thinner vinyl, a little bit flimsier. This is like a little bit more beefy right here. This is a beefier slap, bro. I can't wear this on my hat to work the bar. They be like, what the fuck do you have on your head, buddy? I be like, a sticker? You know what, guy? I always wanted to ask you, why in the hell are you ripping the world apart, man? The American one. You're not supposed to tear the world apart. You see that? This is his slap. Tearing the world up. Like it's a Nerf ball. He's trying to see what the fuck's on the inside. Like, what's on the inside? Are you trying to go to... I don't even know. I don't know. But I got a whole bunch of American one slaps. I almost feel like throwing them up in the air. They be like, it's raining slaps. I'm just playing. We got a couple American one slaps. We got a couple Amy Aces slaps. I got this pen right here. I'm sure y'all can see that shit though. I mean, it's like right there. You know what I mean? It's like right there. Oh, is this another pen? Pray tell? My friend, is this another pen? I think this is this the American one's pen? Oh shit. Now if I put 2 of them on there, I can't put 2 of them on there, but back to back, like, bruh. I'm putting these motherfuckers on my backpack, man. Let me go get my backpack real quick. No, I think I put my backpack up. Shit. I know exactly where I'm going to put them, man. I just picked up this new nifty backpack right here, Dickie backpack, man. It's all tie-dye and shit like I'm a stoner with it from the... You know what? Stone Ninja. Shout out to Ninja, man. I was talking to him the other day on Instagram, and what the hell he said? We were talking, and I said something. He was like, man, I'm just a stoner from a different boner, bro. I'm like, what? That shit had me cracking up. Anyways, I'm gonna put it on here, man. My backpack of justice. My other backpack. I got like all types of backpack of justice. This is my backpack of hippie vision. I'm gonna put this here American one sticker pen on my backpack. Right here, man. I always be paranoid of poking myself. I don't want to poke myself. There's gotta be an easy way to do this. Pinch, go through, don't poke yourself. Ugh. There it is, man. It's in there. It's in there, man. You official like a referee with a damn whistle, man. You're on my backpack. I don't even know if you can see it. Shit, I can't see it. It's right there, man. It's right there. The American one. It's like G.I. Joe. The American one. That's all that's in the package. Stickers. No, I'm just playing. Let me stop fucking with y'all. He also sent me some other stuffs. What does that say? Cobra. Ladies and gentlemen, Prince has entered the building. He's in the back, signing autographs, taking pictures with the ladies. So don't all of y'all get up at once, but he back there taking pictures. What up, Leilani? Hey, girl, hey. Okay, I don't know, something about these Wendy's fries. I reheated them and they smell weird now. Like, by the time I got home, they were cold because I was taking my time. I'm just playing. I was speeding like a motherfucker trying to get home. I still got cold fries. Anyway, I put them in the microwave. And they just don't even smell like fries no more. I can't finish eating these. How about you sit right there? Let me stop playing with y'all. The American one sent me he sent me some of these, and some of these, and some of these. Uh-oh. Y'all don't know about that right there, man. Oh, I missed. Cypress Hill was supposed to be at the Bud Tenders Awards. I don't know if they was there or not because I was there to tear it down. Rick Ross had a booth there, so he was actually like there while they was tearing his booth down. And I ended up taking a snap with him. Dude, take a selfie with me, bro. He had this big ass security guard kind of walking with him. I'm like, is that Ross? He was like, yeah. I said, can I take a picture with him, big man? He was like, oh yeah, he cool. I was like, thank you, sir. I just didn't want to walk up on him. Dude was like, swole. I'm like, damn, should they let you out? No, I'm just playing. He wasn't that big, but he was big. And I didn't want to get pushed to the side. You know, step to the side, sir, please do not. Dude, I just want to take a picture, man. Dang, bro. Can I take a picture with him, bro? Bro, can I take a picture? Oh, no. It's No in the building. What up, No? Young Fred. What up, man? Oh. Snapper Dapper Dooskies. You guys see my Amy Aces pen? See that yet? I can't even see it. Dun-dun-dun. Amy Aces from the American one. The American one sent me some Amy Aces. And I'm not going to ask him what's in it because Amy is in it and there's some aces in it. And that's all I need to know. I'm pretty sure this is something that he's working on. And that's almost like I would consider that to be proprietary information. He also sent me some Godiva. It's not chocolate. This might even be Godiva. I don't know. This could be for like, this could be the strain for all the divas out there in the world. Like, go diva, go diva, go diva. Wait, it's go ninja, go. Wait, wrong movie. Anyways, he also sent me some He sent me some Ophelia. The Ophelia. Ophelia. Oh, I get it. Dude. That's fucking impressive, bro. I get it. Like Philia. It's almost like Philly, like cheesecake. Philly cheesecake, Ophelia. I get that's fucking smart, bro. The American one, you're cool, bro. I can't speak for everybody else in the chat room, but you guys, you're fucking awesome. All I want to know is who wants the fat ass Amy Aces slap in the chat room. She's even got the American one's butt stamp, tattoo. She's got that's a temporary tattoo, guys. It's not permanent. Nobody in their right mind would tattoo the American one's logo on their assets. Unless he's got a wife, maybe. Maybe if it's his wife, she might tattoo the logo on her assets for the American one, but nobody else. Besides Amy. Amy's assets. Let me stop playing, man. Let me stop playing. Look at the American. Mr. Greenbody's like, me. I want the... Man, you can't have Amy's assets. You're eliminated from all giveaways from yesterday on forth now. I'm just playing. Stop playing. Mr. Greenbody's gonna be like, dude, I'm not coming to the chat room any fucking more because you're not cool. You're cool. You're cool. The American one's cool. Everybody else... Man, we should play hip-hop trivia. Name that song. Y'all don't know, man. That Too Short? What's up, dude? What's up, Danny? Danny, bro. Danny. Are you just getting here, Danny? Bro, you're just in time, bro. Bro. You're just in time, Danny. My French fries are gone? Yes, my French fries are gone. Boom. So. Oh my goodness. I'm going to do 3 giveaways. Here are the rules of the giveaways. You must be 21 years or older. I'm sorry, 18. 18 years older. You must take care of your shipping. So whether you're in Canada, Europe, Jamaica, Detroit, California, Guam, I don't care where you are, you got to take care of your shipping. I'm taking care of the gift. You take care of the shipping. And we got to go and subscribe to the American one because this is sponsored by him. And if you want to win something that he produced, the least you could do is go make sure you're subscribed to the guy. Know what I mean, Vern? Know what I mean? So, 18 or older, take care of your shipping. Subscribe to the American one. Okay? Okay. We're going to do 3 different giveaways. We're going to do a giveaway for the Amy Aces. That's going to be one giveaway. That giveaway will include the big Amy Aces slap. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to keep the big Amy. That's the big Amy Aces slap. Let me see. This is the same size as that, right? Yeah, so I already got one of these. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep the big Amy. I'm sorry. I'm being stingy, guys. I'm gonna put this Amy Aces slap on my shop vac. Just got all the other slaps of justice on there. Sits in the garden. Sorry, I'm sorry. Anyway, whoever wins gonna get Amy Aces slap and the 5-pack of Amy Aces or a 6-pack, because you know I don't do the 5s around here. So you get a 6-pack of Amy Aces, you get a slap, and you get American one slap as well. He gonna slap you in the face while he ripping the fucking world apart, one strain at a time. He's like, this is how I think my strains make the look. I'm ripping the world apart with my strains, man. I'm putting the strains out, and they're going fucking crazy. It's making the world go crazy. I'm tearing it apart. You're gonna get the Amy Aces slap again if I can get her around there. Amy Aces. Amy's assets, Aces, Amy Aces, the American one. Yeah, y'all probably can't see that. I don't even know. Sorry, I'm tired. It's been a long day. I keep hearing horns honk outside. I'm going crazy. I do need to find my doohickey doodad, my thing, my notepad. So if you guys bear with me for a couple seconds, I'll be right back. Feel free to talk freely amongst yourselves. Or you can look at the wonderful half a joint in the background. It's half a blunt, half a joint, something. I don't even know what that is. Where's my... Dude, where's my car? Dude, where's my car? Dude! I don't know where my pad is. I can't find my panties either. I can't find my panties. And I can't find my pad. Oh. Ow. Is this it? No. This is the garden. What is this? This is my goal notebook. So my goal notebook? No, that's not it. Garden notebook? No, that's not it. Where's my damn giveaway notebook? I don't know where it's at right now. Thank you very much. What's this shit be like right up underneath my face? Bruh. Is that it right there? Bam! I found it. I found it. Littlefoot. I'm gonna turn my camera on for a second and ask y'all a question. You guys ever have somebody come over your house and they leave something over your house just so they can have a reason to come back later? Answer that in the chat room. I don't even know. Hey, don't be leaving shit over here because you ain't coming back. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Where my drink at? No, for real, I turn my thing off so I can smoke me a cigarette. But we're gonna do a Nightbot giveaway in the chat room. Everybody, we're gonna piss Farrah off right quick because she don't like the number giveaway. She like, no, we don't like doing the number giveaways because it makes me have to look at numbers for a million minutes. Where's my lighter at? Right there. Where's my cigarettes? Cigarettes. Amy's Aces. Hoi, hoi, hoi. Nasty cigarettes, I say. No grow in the building. What up, no? She said, damn. Leilani said, I'll put your shit on the porch. Don't knock on my door. You better hope it's still there by the time you get here, too. That's messed up, B. No, I ain't got no, there ain't nobody leave no panties over here, Grandpa. You would have to have a female here. Outside of my daughter, that is. In order for some panties to be left over here, man. My bed has cobwebs in it, metaphorically speaking. The springs is fresh. They ready to get work. I'm just playing. My bed old as shit. I need to get a new one. It's probably been that 7-8 year mark. I need to get a new bed. Anyways, let me find my Nightbot. Nightbot. Turn on Nightbot. I left my panties at Spark so I could come back later. Ew, that's disgusting, Grandpa. Josh Warrior, Draco Martin in the building. What up, Draco? I ain't even smoked I ain't smoked yet, huh? That's messed up. Alright, Draco. Draco came through and I gotta smoke. I gotta finish my nasty cigarette though, man. So you got to wait a minute for a minute, man. You got to wait a minute, Draco. But I'll smoke a bowl for you, my friend. My friend. Cause I'm about out of dabs and I got buds. I got a little bit of buds. I think I'm gonna chop my darn ninja fruit, not my ninja fruit. I don't know why I called it ninja fruit. I was thinking about ninja earlier. What he said, I'm just a stoner from a different boner, bro. This was funny as hell. Shout out to Ninja one more time, man. If you guys aren't already entered into the Instagram giveaway, the me, Hanepo G Kush, not Stony. Fuck. It's me, Hanepo G Kush, Ninja, Miss Jill, T-Dog, and Jinx Proof and Miss Rose are all chipping in items for a big giveaway on Instagram. If you're not entered into that giveaway, I suggest you get over there and do so. Contest ends on Halloween. There's about $2,000 worth of prizes in the jackpot. I'm throwing in, I think, 3 packs of genetics. Ninja's throwing in a pack of genetics, a hat pin, and a slap, if I'm not mistaken. The Haneps are putting in some genetics. Miss Rose and Jinx are putting up some genetics, if I'm not mistaken. I know T-Dog is doing some hat pins, some T-shirts. It's a lot of stuff, man. Y'all get over there, check it out. You can either check my Instagram out or the Haneps. You can check out T-Dog's. The rules for the giveaway on Instagram are at T-Dog, the artist, IG. But it's on my page as well because I reposted it. So, y'all go check that out, man. Another banner from CND. I don't know what that means, guy. What does that mean? You got some fire at the dispensary today. What you get, Draco? Draco, what you get, bro? So, once again, we're going to do a giveaway in the chat room. This is going to be a Nightbot giveaway. I'm so sorry, Farrah. Farrah does not like when I do these giveaways. I apologize, but it's convenient for me not to have to sit in the chat room and look for numbers. Nightbot does it. And the random number giveaways are always amazing. There's 240 people in the chat room now. So if you guys pick a number between 1 and... what should I make it? Between 1 and 710, man. 0 and 710. Roll it, roll it, roll. That's kind of high, though. It's 24 people in here. 24. Yeah, I'm just going to do the 710. That'll give me a little bit of time. Nightbot will start the giveaway when she's ready, and she will continue to look for the right number. You can type as many numbers in the chat room as you want to until somebody gets the correct number. And don't forget, this is for a 6-pack of Amy Aces, along with 2 slaps, maybe 3 slaps. You do have to take care of your shipping. You must be over 18 and subscribe to the American one. The American one. This is for a 6-pack Amy Aces. You got to take care of your shipping. If you're not going to take care of your shipping, do not enter the giveaway. Don't take away somebody else's chance that wants to get their hands on some different genetics. Don't take away their chance of being an a-hole. Okay? Okay. Old School Girl says 200. Oh, let me write this number down. Today's giveaway is brought to you by the American one. This whole page just done came out with notebook. Damn. I think I done sent all that out. But if I ain't, no, I haven't. I ain't sent Luigi. I have not sent Luigi his prize. I need to send Luigi and Farrah. Luigi and Farrah. So, before I lose that, let me write his name down here. Foxtail. Foxtail. What's today? Date? Today is 10/12. 10/12/19. First number is, it's gonna get a 6-pack of Amy Aces. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to... The no says congrats to Woody, the winner. Gonna do the hoots. Gonna do hoots. Hoot and then hollering 6-pack of Amy Aces. I got the number written down so I don't forget. People always ask afterwards, what was the number? I'd be like, man, I don't know. I didn't pick the number. Nightbot did. Now I'm writing the number down so I can recall it and be like, what was the number? I'd be like, 2. That wasn't really the number, so don't nobody put 2 in the chat room. You will be timed out a time or 2. Second witness in the building. What up, second witness? If y'all is putting numbers in and you didn't say hi to me when you came in here, shame on you. I said shame on you. I sure did. I said shame on you. Ooh, Michelle R. Bless the channel with 420. Thank you, Mother Nature. Bless the channel with 420. Thank you. Smack a poker chopper fried rice. Bless the channel with a dub. Thank you. Junji. Bless the channel with $35. Treetops. Bless the channel. Damn. Treetops. Treetops, you win twice. Did you go twice? Pat's fan, everybody. Shout out to those scrolling across the bottom. And I can't forget the stream balls up top. This guy's been stream boss for a minute. Y'all just letting Brett remain on the top. He's been at the top for a while now. We got to knock him down. Every time we get a subscriber or a donation, it knocks Brett off of his high horse up there. Hanging out chilling. 238 is not the right answer. It's not. It's almost, but no cigar. Wait a minute. No, it's not. Damn, did I just see a number that was hella close? Look at this guy. American Stoners or Canadian Stoners. Let's do motors I had. I'm lost. That's crazy. Congratulations. No. How many mosquito bites do you get on your butt if you go camping and drop bottom onesies? Enter a number now. That is crazy. Mama said I was a winner. No said. That was awkwardly convenient because I literally just put my cigarette out. Now the giveaway is over and I can continue to do the show. No grow won. The number was 327. He said something about let's go with numbers of motor sizes I had or some shit, and then he hit 327. I don't know if that was the first number he put in the chat room, but I did see him say earlier something about the damn let's do motors I had. I saw that because it was some speech. It wasn't the number, so I kind of glanced over at it. Congratulations, no grow. This motherfucker said I'm gonna put the what number motor that 327. Bingo! Hey, you might want to go play the lotto, man. Go put your motor number in the lotto. Go play all the motor numbers you done ever had at the lottery and see who you hit, man. And if you hit, I want $100 referral fee for telling your ass to go play them numbers. Just $100, you can win 10 billion gazillion. I don't give a damn how much. Bless your heart, sugar. Ladies and gentlemen, please tip your hats to the fabulous Southern Jip. Where she's at, ma'am? How you doing, ma'am? You gotta tip your hat. I don't got a cowboy hat. Tip your hat. Be like, ma'am. How you doing, ma'am? Ma'am, how you doing? Ma'am. How you doing, ma'am? Bless your heart, sugar. Bless your heart, sugar. For the real, the kids was an American up in Canada. It is aunties. What? I'm so lost. So no, girl, I don't know if I have your address or not, sir, but if you know I don't have your address, either way, man, email me. Whew, snaps. I don't even know what my email is. I don't know if it's MR period or if it's MRSPA. Okay. Fuck, what is my email? I don't even remember my email. Paper Scratcher is in the building. He also got me stoned at 13. We rode Camaro with 327 full speed, 80 miles an hour. Who you talking about? Wait. My motors I had, we rode. Who is we? Is this your wait, man. No, grow at Gmail, bro. Wait, no, I'm not going to. Look, no, that's not how this works, guys. You email me, motherfucker. Yeah, for real, man. You got to email me, guys. I'm not going to email you so you can claim your prize. You email me. No, let me get it. No, grow. Did you delete it now, motherfucker? Wait a minute. Did you take it back? No, it is right there. No, grow. No. Nobody can like see you. Nobody can. I'm sorry, I got a little lost in musical, magical days. I used to do West Side Story in my sleep. Just playing. I'm gonna send you an email. I gotta pause the show, ladies and gentlemen, so I can email No over here because he don't want to get in touch with me. I guess any other way, so I'm gonna email him right. Email No grow right quick, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I think everybody should email No right now and be like, why the hell did you make Mr.SparkzAlot pause the damn show for you, sir? I'm gonna stop. No, gonna be like, fuck you, Sparks. I don't want to see your show no more. I'm clicking unsubscribe. Unsubscribe. See, my slow ass computer. This is how long it takes for me to send the email. I done already clicked the send button. I gotta wait for a window to pop up. Compose, come on, compose. Are you gonna do it again? Did I click the button twice? I don't even know. I'm waiting. No, it says, actually, I got your email. You should, bro. Everybody should have Mr.SparkzAlot email, man. I keep dropping my pen. I'm over here bumping Tupac, nothing but a gangster party. The No grow. The N-O. The capital N. Lowercase o, lowercase n, lowercase o, capital G-R-O-W. The No grow. I looked. It ain't coming up. What? Because I ain't sent it yet. My computer's still over here thinking about sending you an email, bro. It's like, you don't believe me? Look at this shit, man. Let me turn my camera off so you can see. I'm over here. I'm trying to send you an email. And it's loading. You see that shit right there? Loading. It's thinking about it. No. It's just for you, man. It's thinking about it. Mr.SparkzAlot at gmail.com. Doom. I think it is MR period. SparkzAlot at gmail.com. I think. I forget if I put a period or not in there. I don't email myself that often. And I guess I don't give my email out enough because I have it posted just about everywhere. Well, bless your heart, sugar. No. Come on, dude. I just want to write no fucking email, bro. There you go. 6 years later. Look, mouse over here blinking and shit. Look, what the hell, too? Okay, so it's NONOGROW, right? Is that what he put in there? I mean, let me go up here and see if I can find the dude address. NONOGROW at the gmails.com. I'm gonna write wiener. Wait, shit, wiener. Chicken diener. Like the dinar. Isn't that a monetary value system somewhere? It's a form of currency, the dinar. I could be wrong. Who the hell are you? You ran your Hyundai over the speed bump curb thing with Bopper Jiggy out there. I hope I wrote that right. I'm like, let me write it on stupid. Hey, fucker. No, I'm not gonna cuss it. No, like that. Hey, dude. No, I don't want to call him the hair between the horses' butts. Bruv? You guys say bruv up there up north, man? I need a shipping address. Addy, so I can calculate postage. Yeah. Bro. What up, man? And then sitting up here opening up some mail on the YouTube. Gonna do a giveaway right quick. Oh, you at the crib? You finna come through or what? Yes, sir. You got work tomorrow? Okay. Okay, swole, bro. Well, let me finish this live. I'll hit you back in a minute. All right, like. Oh, I swear, like, I could not be on the phone forever. I mean, I could always, wait, what? I could sit at home like all day and the minute I get ready to go out and do something, everybody want to call me. Or I could sit at home for hours and hours and hours and nobody calls me, and then I go live and like everybody want to call me all at the same time and shit. Mr. Robot though, Mr. Robot. What? The dinar is Iraqi money. What he said, Iraqi money. Wait a minute, turn that off, turn this back on, turn that back on, turn this back on. Is it 420 yet? Damn it, we passed it up. Anyways, I don't know if Draco's still here, but every time I go in Draco room and he come in my room, we take bong rips for each other. It's kind of weird almost. It's like, wait a minute, dude. Why am I taking bong rips for you, bro? I'm just playing. Shout out to Draco Martin. Very cool guy. If I'm ever in his area, definitely going to have to hit him up. We're going to have to sesh, man. We're going to have to smoke some bowls or some joints or something, bro. Take some bong rips. Bong rips. Oh, my gosh. My phone is just popping off over here. Popping off. Yeah. Boom, boom. What I say, I just jinxed myself, man. If that phone go off one more time, I swear for Jesus. I swear for Jesus. Cheers, guys. This for you, Draco. Shit. How that hurt, bro. That was almost like a dry rip. I was like a dry rip. I don't think I got enough water in there. Maybe my water evaporated. Yeah, I need to go get some more water. I mean, shit. That was like a dry rip because it didn't even hit water, bro. it didn't hit water, like my water level is low, and that water is kind of dirty. I need to clean my bong. Don't judge me. Do not fucking judge me, guys. Don't do it. Anyways, no grow. I emailed you, sir. You should have your email me. I need an address so I can get. I think you're you're overseas. I mean, not overseas, but aren't you up north, man? I think you're up north. So I need to calculate your shipping costs, sir, and then all that other stuff or whatever. But anyways, without further ado, you guys, once again, man, make sure if you're gonna enter in today's giveaways, make sure you're subscribed to this guy right here, man. The American One, man. The American One. How can you not subscribe to somebody with the name American One, man? The American One. Sounds like a G.I. Joe fucking edition. Don't it? Don't that sound like an episode of G.I. Joe? G.I. Joe. On this episode, the American One. The first G.I. Wait, what? Huh? Wait. I said if I win, I'd send it to stuff. I have no idea. No. Y'all, look. All you guys make stuff difficult on me. You make it difficult on me. Don't make it difficult on me. Splitsies? I don't even know. I really don't know. Pork chop? Can somebody go get the pork chop? I need a referee in the chat room. Hold it down. Pork chop? Where's my pork chop? Y'all gonna stop doing heists in the chat room without me, man. You didn't even ask me did I want a heist, man. Dang, I want money too, bruh. I want money too, bruh. No, for real, no. It don't matter to me, man. Y'all let me know. Email me, let me know. If you want me to send something to Stoney, then I mean it's a 6-pack. You want me to send you a 3-pack of beans? God, like I don't know. Y'all figure that shit out and let me know, bro. But make sure you subscribe to the No. I mean, fuck. Yes, go check out the No Grow as well, because he's a winner. Anybody that can pick numbers like 327 out of the blue, like, let me go with my ends number back in 85. I had that 327, boy, that vroom. We go down there yonder, get us some lemonade at the country store right there, man. Get our lemonades on, get some cigarettes, and go pick up some of them hot chicks, man. That 327 4-speed go vroom, vroom. Boy, go fast enough, I'm gonna blow that girl top off, man. The same burn. Know what I mean? Burn, know what I mean? Mr. Greenbody and SparkzAlot. Dude, we came out of there guns a-blazing. I'm just playing. I was in the car. I'm the getaway driver, so I always get away with money. Always. I'm just playing. For real. Okay, so we're going to do one more giveaway. 2 more giveaways, actually. Same rules apply. You got to be 18 or over to enter the giveaway. The giveaway 18 or over. You must take care of your shipping. So whether you're in Maine or Mars, got to take care of your shipping. Okay? If you can't afford to take care of your shipping, don't enter the giveaway. Okay? And if you don't want to win the fucking giveaway, don't enter the giveaway. Okay? This is a public service announcement. I love y'all. My drink's almost gone, man. Second witness is trying to get another squad together. I'm going to ban you from squad heisting, man. Second witness only coming here to get bucks. That's all. I bet second witness couldn't tell you what I was talking about 5 minutes ago. Second witness, did you say hi when you came in here? Second witness, did you say hi? When you, you want me to do it? Shit, let's go then. Let's go then. I didn't see you challenge me to a duel, Farrah, but if you want to get your ass kicked on the dance floor, I've been practicing. I've been watching Boogie Nights, and I've been watching Electric Boogaloo, and I've been watching Flash Dance, and I've been watching, what's that movie with that white boy in it? Footloose. 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 Fuck! I still still lost. All those movies I've been watching, sitting up here. I even went and bought that game with the Nintendo Wii, So You Think You Can Dance, Volume 39, because that's how old I am. They got them in the age brackets. Like if you 39, you buy the one that's 39. And they teach your dance moves that you should be able to do at the age of 39. And I guess Farrah, shit, she been dancing, do, 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 do. I don't know what she been, oh, baby. I'm not dancing you no more. I'm not, no more. Well, no, I'm going to go watch all the episodes of motherfucking Soul Train tonight. All of them. I'm not going to sleep till I done watched every last episode of Soul Train and mastered every move that I've ever seen on Soul Train. I'm not going to sleep until that shit happens. Because Farrah, you will not beat me again. I say you will not. I demand a nope, not a rematch. I can't give you a rematch right now, man. I can't. That's why y'all all went to jail laughing at me and shit. Talking about Farrah beat you. Yep, she did. Y'all in jail. Stop. Okay, so you guys subscribe to the American one? I want to know by the show of hands in the chat room how many people are subscribed to the American one. 1, 2, 3. It's the Southern Gypsy. I didn't say nothing about picking no goddamn numbers. Why you put numbers in the chat room? You fired. Put your ass in the corner. Put Southern Gypsy in timeout. Put her in timeout. Put her in timeout. Put her in timeout. This is the hood anthem.
Come on, guys. Big bow wow wow. Cause we gonna make a little mystery here tonight.
Hey. Warren G getting that. What the ain't no fun. I'm just playing. I never liked that song. It's not a real gentleman song. Real gentlemen don't share their ladies. What's wrong with you, Snooper Loop? I'm just playing. But I'm serious. I never felt right about listening to Ain't No Fun. If the homies can't have, nope. Homie can't have none. Get your own. Just playing. Sub to the American one. Mr. J-Rock says, I've been subbed, motherfucker. I've been subbed. Can I post a cool bike link? What do you mean cool bike link? No. Is it a cannabis bike? Is it made out of weed seeds or something? I don't know, guy. What kind of bike link, man? What kind of bike link? Mr. Greenbody snitched on y'all. That's why he came out of there with all the money, man. He came out of there with all the Mr. If I was y'all, I would tell Mr. Greenbody, give you some motherfucking reparations. Because y'all went to jail. All because Mr. Greenbody told shit. I was trying to say tail, but that didn't make sense, man. I'm not a rapper. It's a 427 in a bike. 1200 horse twin turbo. Man, you speaking rocket science to me, dog. I don't know nothing about no goddamn twin turbo, 1200 horsepower V12 engine with the 327, the suicide grip with the emergency brake drift in it. I don't know. Look, I'm going to take your word for it. It's a badass bike, man. How about you email me the link and no, man. Damn it. You motherfucker, you no. I'm going to make you a mod so you can post your link. And then I'm unmodding the hell out your ass because I don't like you. No, I'm just playing. I love you, man. For real, post your link. And then I'm going to unblock you. Block your ass back. Because I'm a bad boy. You're not a bad boy, man. I just don't usually be posting. This ain't, No, this ain't Killer Corn TV, man. We don't watch other people's videos over here. Unless it's cannabis news. I watch cannabis news videos. But, I don't like watching other people's videos. I don't have the permission. I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? If it's news, I can claim the Fair Use Act shit. Like, look, man, I'm doing commentary on your news broadcast. But see, now I gotta go over here. I have to literally talk about this video in order for me not to get no copyright shits. I'm just playing. What a link at? No. Did he put the link in the chat room and I'm just not seeing it? I don't know. Let me go up here and see. He says, sorry, free cannabis, Southern Gypsy doing free for alls. Courtroom CIA, you should dig it. Mr. Greenbody, the cops giving up. Southern Gypsy, something else. Streamlabs, points. I don't even know. Did I miss it? No. Did you put the link in the chat room, bro? I'm finna break up some cannabis while I'm waiting on No to tell me if he put the link in the chat room or not. All y'all doing is fighting in the chat room, man. Everybody fighting, man. Stop fighting. Can we all get along? Can we all get along? Southern Gypsies join the heist. Mr. Greenbody's joined the heist. I don't know how his name is so special in the chat room. It's always lit up like that for some odd reason. Because his name is Mr. Greenbody. Mr. Greenbody. Not enough people were interested in the arena. Oh my gosh. Where's No at? I'm gonna slap No on the hands in a second. He don't put the damn link in the chat room. I ain't seen it yet. All of the bodies in the blood have been removed from the arena. Want to go again? Nobody was even in there. So how did y'all remove? Oh my gosh. Leilani's Kitchen's laughing. The free-for-all is about to start. I don't even know what happened. It has begun. Get ready. Mr. Greenbody's just laughing his ass off in the chat room. I don't know why, man. No is not blue. No is blue. Like, I put No is a mod. Oh my gosh. See, there go. No is a mod. You see it says I permit the No. Wait a minute. Maybe that's not mod status. Bro, my bad, man. My bad. I'm sorry. No. I didn't make you a mod. I guess I made you. Shit. I'm sorry, God messed up, man. Look, this is PBS over here, ladies and gentlemen. It's the public broadcasting system. This ain't BET, this ain't NBC. I ain't got a big budget with a whole bunch of people to push buttons for me while I sit up here and do my thing. I got to do it all by myself. All by myself. I'm not going to quit my day job, I promise you. So, no, can you put the link in the chat room now, man? God damn, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry for yelling at you earlier, guy. Do you accept my apology, bro? Man to man, do you accept my apology? You gotta tell me, no. Tell me if you accept my apology. I bet the people outside my window are like, what the hell is he talking about in there? I'm like, I don't even know, guy. I'm talking to myself. Talking to myself. Okay, hello. No, bro, still ain't put it down. Did you leave after I made you a mod? He's like, if I leave, he can't unmod me. I am writing in white text or something. I don't even know. Hello. No, I see you, guy. I just don't see no link. Like, you ain't put no link in the chat room, bro. Maybe I need to go on YouTube and make you a moderator. You're already a moderator. No, it says I'm invisible. You're not invisible, guy. I see you on my chat. Right there. You see? I see you. I see you, guy. I see you, no. You're not invisible, bro. Did I block? No. You guys see no. Fudge. Okay, now let me click this old weird ass link over here. Where it's gonna open up at? Over there? Over here somewhere? No, it's gonna send me a virus. The whole show gonna shut down. He gonna be laughing in the corner like, happy Halloween, bitch ass. I don't even know where this shit opened up at. Let me go over here to my damn. Oh. No, right, first, like the link is up. Can we move on already? Because No took up way for much of our time here. I know I gotta smoke a cigarette now. It's like, damn, No. All this for a link. This better be one bad mother sucking bike, bro. I'm talking about knock the socks off. I'm just playing. Danny from Vegas. Mr.SparkzAlot just woke up from an indica nap. Wife's gone. Just me the dog. Shit, that shit just went up there. I don't even know what happened. NASCAR was here. I didn't see him. Damn, Goliath girl. This all old chat right here. FFP in the building. What up? Food Forest. Permaculture. Drew High in the motherfucking house. I keep hearing cars start up and cars drive off and alarms being cut off and on. Doop, 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 doop. Fucking cigarettes. I know, right? Only Mary Jane cigarettes. I know, man. See, what happened was sometimes when I get nervous or when I get frustrated or never mind. I'm gonna leave that alone. Southern Gypsy snitched on y'all. She snitched on y'all, man. She walked out of there all by herself. As soon as this chat room pops up over here, we're gonna do shit. Come on. Where's No-No's thing? Is it close? That's 10:01. What time is it? 10:03. Okay, so I should be able to see it now. Come on, over here. Go up a little bit. Go up. Where's No-No's link at? Some bitch, I can't find a link. Boom! There goes No-No's link. Can I open this up in another window? Alright, this better be one badass bike, No-No. If not, I'm gonna have everybody in the chat room jump your ass. Like, we gonna jump him. Y'all jump him. I'm just playing. How's FFP? The FDA will just ruin everything like always. Baddest thing I've ever done seen. Dude, why are you playing over here? I didn't even tell you to play. Can you stop playing? Because you're taking up hella bandwidth right now. Thank you. Go over here. Let me see this bike. Let me over here. Can I do a giveaway over here? Giveaway. Giveaway over here. Giveaway. Giveaway. Did I pass this shit up? Am I not seeing it right there? I just got the munchies like hella quick. I don't know why. Ow. Ow. A crunchy ass fry. Ow.
Is that a V8?
Ow.
That sounds like a
That sounds like a spaceship. That's a wide ass bike.
heavy V8 to me. What size is it? 350 crate? 427 LS7? Oh my god.
427. That's a Corvette motor. Holy shit. Man, who the fuck he trying to run from? Good lordy, lordy. Look at this bike, y'all. Okay, I give it to you. No, it's pretty badass bike. That fat ass fucking, is them turbos on the front?
Dude, this thing's supercharged. Twin superchargers. How much power does it make? It makes more horsepower than my Corvette did.
Nitrous.
A 300 shot?
Wow. What, you going for a land speed record?
That is insane.
I want to see him take off on that bad boy.
What?
Is he going to take off? Does he start it up? Can I hear it? Let me hear it.
Now, is it 1200 horse with the 300 shot, or is that with, so you don't know what it is with the 300 shot?
Said I ain't never went that fast, boy.
That is.
Come on, man. Oh shit. That thing loud as hell. Why would you want to ride on a big ass motor? Like you literally wrapping your legs around a Corvette motor. I bet that thing get hot. Look, That shit almost yerked them off. You see that old ass dude almost yerk off the bike? Do that shit again. Oh my gosh, he hit that throttle and that shit almost jerked. Look at him, he almost lost it. He got that fat boy tie on the back though. You need that thing. Come on, skirt off on him. Skirt off on him. I bet his insurance rate went up. High as hell, they told me he got that thing. Man, that shit almost ranked it here. Boy, he almost yanked clean up off that thing. That's crazy. No, you made my day then, man. That there was crazy, man. That guy almost ran up. You see him? He almost ran. He was like, yeah, whoa! He almost lost balance. That's crazy. Anyways, in the chat room, we're gonna do a giveaway for a 6-pack of the the Ophelia from the American one. It says on here that the Ophelia is Oh God crossed with Cheesequake. We're going to do a 6-pack of those. Remember, you must be 18 or over to enter the giveaway. You must take care of your shipping, and you need to subscribe to the American one. If you're not subscribed to the American one, I'm going to put his link in the chat room once again. Make sure you get over there. Check out his channel. Hit that oh my gosh. Hit that subscribe button. Every time I got ready to say subscribe, I burped beforehand. It's crazy. Excuse me for the 6th time. Hit that subscribe button over there on the American one. It's a pretty cool guy. Make sure you're following him. And yeah, man. When you see him in the streets, tell him SparkzAlot sent you. Jaws Warrior. No, that's Jaws 411. I don't know why I said Jaws Warrior. I ain't seen him in a minute either. Shout out to Jaws Warrior, Jaws 411. American one in the chat room. It's Green Body. I'm cutting the games off. Y'all just keep fighting each other in the damn chat room. Ain't nobody hugging nobody. Ain't nobody doing none of that. Ain't nobody trying to see how much anybody in love with each other. I don't even know how much. I'm 42% in love with Farrah right now. 42%. Anyways. Okay, so 6-pack Ophelia. You're gonna get a 6-pack of Ophelia. You'll get an American one slap. An American one slap. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put it so close to the damn TV. I mean camera. Ophelia, American one slap. And then maybe I'll throw a Mr.SparkzAlot slap in there. Since you did win it on my my show, I'll give you a SparkzAlot slap. And then that first prize, they're gonna get a SparkzAlot slap too. So 6-pack Ophelia, SparkzAlot slap, the American one slap. Raspberry Coke is the shit. I should trademark that shit. Raspberry Coke, I need that. Let me get it. Yes, it's lovely. In the chat room, if you want to do the giveaway, you need to pay attention to what's going on, because I'm not going to tell anybody 18 million times. Oh, Sheila. I think this is exactly how he's got it spelled. Ophelia. O-H-P-H-E-L-I-A. Ophelia. Everyone can enter. Ticket costs 1,000 credits. Max ticket is 1,000 credits. I'm going to use a 3-minute timer. We'll make it a 4-minute timer. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Open the giveaway. Now, I'm going to explain this one time. Oh, shit, I got to clear this. Can I reset that? Excuse me. Okay. I want in affiliate. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Bam. I'm only going to explain this once, so listen up very carefully. The giveaway has opened. In the chat room, if you want to enter the giveaway, you need to type in hashtag I want in followed by the number of times you want to enter. Now, each entry is 1,000 of your credits that you have in the chat room. You can enter up to 1,000 times. So you can, if you want to enter once, type in hashtag I want in, followed by a space, and then the number 1. If you want to enter 1,000 times, hashtag I want in, followed by a space, number 1,000. 1 through 1,000. You can bet up to 1,000 times. It's 1,000 per ticket. Okay? Remember, you have to be 18 or older to enter. You got to be willing to take care of your shipping. And you got to be subscribed to the American one. If you're not going to do all 3 of those things, please no wasting nobody time. Please no wasting nobody time. Okay? Okay. So while you guys and gals are doing that for a second, I think I'm going to take a small break over here. Time for a break. How far are we out? We're 8 minutes from the 420 mark, ladies and gentlemen. Please, somebody remind me. Hey, Google, set a timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes. Starting now.
All right, it's going to be 420 when that timer go off. So let me just load up a bowl right now so I'll be ready. I'm going to be ready. Ready in the background. Now, when the chat room says the giveaway is over, you guys got to stop putting your giveaway entries in there. So far, I don't know who's into. I think I saw Southern Gypsy in earlier. I can go over there and check as soon as I get done loading this here bowl. Got my bowl loaded. 6 minutes out from the 420. If y'all want to smoke on the 420, you might want to make sure the smoking device of your choice is ready. Whether it's your vape pen, your e-pen, your CD, EF, GHI, JK, Elemento, vape pen, electric e-nail, butane, wrapper, joints, blunts, I don't know what y'all, Coke cans, you smoke out of banana peel, whatever you smoke out of, make sure it's right. And yeah, the 420 mark is 6 minutes away, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to see the currency. We're going over here to the giveaways. Golly Moses. That's a lot of people that wait, did Chosen One enter? Is this today? Is Chosen One here? Chosen One ain't here. Y'all make sure you entered into the Chosen One 1,000 subscriber giveaway on my channel. We're doing a giveaway for Chosen One. As soon as he hits 1,000 subs, we're going to give away 3 packs of TH. I was going to say TH. I don't even know what. The Secret Garden's genetics. That's 3 packs of my genetics, ladies and gentlemen. If y'all want to enter 3 pack, you want to win 3 packs of Secret Garden genetics, make sure you get over there and check out the Chosen One 1K subscriber giveaway. Make sure you go check it out. That's on YouTube. I also have an Instagram giveaway going on right now. We got 2 giveaways going on right now that I'm related to or in. Y'all make sure you check them out. Mother Nature says, cheers. Made in Schmedium. What up, Dale? Dale, Mother Nature's here and she no one go home. I'm just playing daylight. Come, Dale. Mother Nature's in the building. AKA Fiona. What's up, mama? Southern Gypsy said, I don't know how many points I got, but I want to know. Let's see, is the giveaway still open? Nope, the giveaway is closed, right? Did it say that the giveaway was closed? This says allow entry, so the giveaway is over. So, if you didn't get your entry in, sucks to be you. I see that Mr. Greenbody himself, first person in there, Mr. Giveaway Jr. Is Mr. J-Rock? Mr. J-Rock in here too. Mr. J-Rock and Mr. Greenbody are the giveaway kings on the SparkzAlot show. I would say that Farrah is probably the giveaway queen. I think she's received the most packages from over this way. Ironically, she hasn't won half of them. They were all gifts. Like, she's very loved in the community. People be like, hey, yo, send that shit to Farrah, B. I'm like, why you calling my shit shit, son? I'm like, you just called your shit shit, son. I'm like, I did, huh? Damn. Just playing. I'm just playing. Let me stop. Mr. Greenbody, thank you for your entry. Farrah Love. Thank you for your entry. Jar 411, Mother Nature, Old School Grower. Can I get 2 witnesses? I'm the first witness, you the second witness. Second witness, Leilani's Kitchen. Jaws Warrior. Look at that shit. I spoke this guy up. I said hi, Jaws Warrior, earlier to Job 411, and Jaws Warrior's ears started ringing, and he was like, SparkzAlot is on. I must enter the chat room. Shout out to Jaws Warrior in the chat room, guys. Mr. J-Rock, we all know you here. Southern Gypsy and Chosen One all got their entries in the nick of time. So, that's who it's going to be on this next giveaway. We're going to see who wins. We're going to see who wins. We're going to see who witness. Can I get 2 witnesses? We're going to see who wins the Ophelia and the Mr.SparkzAlot slap and the American one slap. We're both going to slap your ass. 2-time. Assistant Pimp, get my baby powder ready. Oh, I'm never going to be a real pimp. I'm just good. Assistant pimping is in your blood, because assistant pimping. You're a sweetheart. The American one. Pimping baby powder. Yes, I need my powder ready. And put it on my hands, because we're going to slap the shit out the winner with these stickers over here, right in your forehead. Your cheeks. Which cheek you want to get slapped in, you can tell me. It's either going to be your face cheek or your other cheek. We're going to slap the slap on you, and you're going to have to walk around all day sporting the American SparkzAlotopotamus slaps of justice. Justice! Mr. Greenbody, what up, man? Okay, if you're ready to choose a winner in the chat room, I need you guys to say in the chat room, hurry up and fucking pick a winner. I'm just playing. Don't tell me that. I'll be mad. I'll be super mad. I'll probably kick you out the room. Be like, what? What do you think? This my room, punk. I have to kick you out the room like I'm the older brother. Nope. I know we share this room, but I need my me time. So get your ass out the room. I'm just playing. No me time for you guys. The cops are patrolling the area. It's better wait. It's better to wait for a bit. Cool down 9 seconds. Streamlabs chatbot. Boom. Oh yes, did I mention that today's giveaways are brought to you by the American one? And if you're not subscribed to them, then you suck. Yep, I said it. You suck if you're not subscribed to the American one. It's official like a referee with no whistles. He whistles through his teeth. That'd be a bad referee. If he didn't need no whistle, he could just whistle that loud. Be like, boop, boop. Be like, wait a minute, did you just whistle? Where your whistle at? I don't even see nothing hang around your neck, man. That's a loud whistling referee, man. Oh, it's 420. Holy sheep shit. Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta put my cigarette down so I can smoke my bowl. Shut up, Google. Hey, Google. Stop my timer. Cheers,
If you just
mofo.
asked about canceling a timer, there are actually none set at the moment.
Get the fuck out of here. Well, why are you beeping over there then? Beep, 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 beep. What the hell was that shit, huh? I don't know. Where's my 420 at? 420. It's 420. Ladies and gentlemen, light that shit. Puff that shit. Smoke that shit. Pass that shit, man. Cheers, guys. I forgot I was supposed to put some more water in this shit. Oh, fuck. This is water, huh? Just put it in there. Oh, my gosh. That awkward silence. Ugh. Shit. All right. Now I hope I don't have so much water in there that it's gonna fucking pop up in my mouth. I think I do. Shit. I think I put too much water in there. There is a ton of water in there, but I just didn't. I didn't inhale as hard as I would if there was the right amount of water in there, so to speak. So yeah, cheers, guys. I love y'all. I love yous. Fairwise Sparks making tonight an ASMR night. It's not an ASMR night. Would you like to make it an ASMR night? Do you want ASMR with SparkzAlot? ASMR with SparkzAlot. Make sure you're subscribed to the Americorns channel, ladies and gentlemen. He's a pretty cool guy. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day out there. Please don't adjust your volume because I will talk at a normal voice level here in a second. And I don't want your shit to be hella loud right now. Like, I'm just playing. Hello. Hello. I'll be in Vegas the 30th through the 2nd. How we trying to do this? Yo, yo, yo. Been in I don't know, man. You been talking bad about me on Instagram, dog. I'm kind of upset with you right now, Ben. I almost want to put you in the corner right now. I'm not. Because I was raised in the old school and I got tough feelings. But I'm kind of mad at you, man. You be talking bad about me and then my mama come on the page and she'll be like, is this guy fucking with you or is he serious or what? And I'll be like, I don't even know, mama. You might have to go get him for me, mama. I'm just playing. For real, Ben will put some weird ass shit on your Instagram post. And you're like, did you just put that for real? Like, I know you, but other people don't know you. Man, you and my mama come to Cali and whoop your ass, bro. I'm going to give her my belt to do it. I'm like, get him, mama, get him. Get him. Get him. Get him, mama. And you know you can't hit no old person because you'll get a felony charge for hitting old people. My mama old. I give her a CBD joint and tell her, whoop your ass. Whoop his ass for me, mama. I'm just playing. What up, man? Man, you don't hit me up, bro. DM me. I know you know where I'm at in the Instagram because you be over there talking mad. Just playing. I know you been. Been in you. Got an open mouth. What? I'm lost. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means, guys. Okay, so let's get over here before I get sidetracked because I digressed. Make sure you're following the American one. All that other good shit. Take care of all the bases. Turn the web browser off. Turn my camera off because I don't want to look at y'all. I'm just playing. So, once again, thank you, Miss Greenbody Farrah, Ja, 411, Josh Warrior, Mother Nature, Old School Grower, Second Witness, Lay Linus Kitchen, Miss J Rock, Southern Gypsy, and Chosen One. Shout out to all the ladies in the chat room. Can I get all the guys in the chat room right now? I need you to say hey to all the ladies in the house. All the ladies. Ladies, you ain't got to say nothing. You can just sit there and bow or just look pretty or do what y'all do because I'm just happy you're here. That's all. But all the fellas in the chat room, I need you to say, hey, ladies, hey. Or some shit. I don't know how y'all be hollering at these young gals out here nowadays. What you say to them? I don't need no pickup lines in the chat room. Like, girl, you so, I don't even know. Hey, ladies. Look at that. Mr. Greenbody, Miss J Rock. They both said, hey, ladies. You guys are some scholars and some gentlemen. Chosen One below y'all. Kisses in the chat room. Mother Nature's giving me hugs. Oh, shit. If you wouldn't have put the @ sign in there, it would have gave me a hug. But you fucked up. I'm just playing. You can't put the @ sign in there, Fiona. Fiona! Ogres are like onions. Wait, onions are like ogres. They got different layers and shit. Just playing. I'll be hitting you for sure coming through with green collar. Y'all seen your boy Jackie earlier today, man. He almost walked by me like he was on an important business phone call or something like SparkzAlot. It was just a little peasant or something on the side of the street. Can I get your autograph, Jackie? Yeah! No, I'm just playing. Like, bro, what up, man? What up? He had all white on it. It ain't even past Labor Day. What the fuck? I mean, wait, time out. Is you supposed to have all white on, Jackie? Maybe it was an all white party. I don't know. I don't know, man. Let me stop fucking with Jackie before he come over here and be like, bro, I don't appreciate you talking. In this episode, I'm gonna talk about SparkzAlot. I'm just playing. ¿Con quién estás hablando? Wait, hablando? ¿Con quién estás hablando? Laughing out loud. I don't know what the fuck that means. Google. Translate. I'm just playing. A las buenas. Good job, SparkzAlot. Oh, I can speak the tongue half a little bit. It's been a while. And I don't know Spanglish. I'm mad at somebody. I can't even be mad. I mean, I can be mad, but I can't be mad. My grandpa did not teach my mom Spanish. But my aunties know Spanish, and all my cousins know Spanish. My mom was like she was like the Cinderella, the ugly stepchild or whatever. She wasn't stepchild, like she wasn't adopted. I don't know. My grandpapa did my grandmama wrong. And it's all because my mom likes African American men. So she was kind of shunned. Like my aunties and shit, they all got Spanish or Hispanic husbands and whatnot. Like all my uncles that were married into the family by my aunties. Like all my uncles are Hispanic or something of that nature. Not my daddy. My daddy was darker than the evening, nighttime darkness, like darkness. No, my daddy wasn't that dark. He wasn't like Nigerian, like straight out of Africa dark, but he was kind of dark. It don't matter because I'm still here. But I'm kind of pissed at my grandpa because he penalized his grandkids while penalizing his daughter for liking a little bit of the chocolate. You can't get mad, Grandpa. You about brown as I am getting mad. What the fuck wrong with you, bruh? But for what it's worth, my grandpa came up it was a whole nother time when he was young and the way he was raised. I guess I can't really fault him, even though I can fault him. I don't know. Anyways, indeed, once you go spicy, you get burnt. That's fucked up, man. Who you burning? Second witness, you better stop burning people. Stop burning people. Anyways, let's get over here and go to the giveaway because I just got all sidetracked. We're going to pick a winner in the chat room for the 6-pack of Ophelia. Oh, Ophelia. It's the strain that the American one made. Ophelia. Pick a winner in the chat room. Who's the winner? Did I pick a winner? Did I click the button? I don't know. Did I click the button? I didn't click the button. I didn't click the button. Oh shit. Did Farrah win? Farrah didn't win. Did Farrah win in the chat room? Let's go back up here and see. Is that what it said? It was different time period. Yeah, when my grandpa was a kid, man, shit was real different. I've never understood, like, there's always been, like, a barrier between Hispanics and blacks. But it really just depends on where you are. Because, like, I can go to a lot of places where blacks and browns get together fine. But you can go to other places and they can't stand each other. And it's just like, it's a lot to do with your environment, your upbringing, and how people teach you the world is, It's crazy. Craziness. I guess Farrah did win. Let's go up here and see. It said Farrah won. The Secret Garden Farrah Class 11. You had won. Please email me. You already know my email. And it says you are subscribed to my channel. I think you're already subscribed to the American One's channel. If you're not, he's going to give you a butt whooping. I won't tell nobody. Shoot, my great-great-grandmother, wait, didn't like anyone darker than 2 shades lighter than peanut butter. Not even her own kids. Well, yeah, your great-great-grandmother. Great. So you going back like at least about 100 years or so. Yeah. Well, they used to have a brown paper bag shit back in the day. Like, and if you were darker than a fucking brown paper bag, you was considered to be a field nigga. You was out there in the field, you know. And if you were lighter than a brown paper bag, you had the luxury of being able to go out into society and be like, you was more of a closer, like you was more of a personal slave or servant compared to the niggas that's out there picking cotton and shit. You know what I mean? And that alone, like, that bred hatred within our own community. And it's still like it's kind of alive to this day. And it's just not in our culture. It's in a lot of cultures. Like, you can go to Mexican cultures. You can go to Africa. And Africa, the continent of Africa as well, like that, I'm sure there's dark ass tribes that don't like the lighter tribes and vice versa. Hatred is everywhere. It's just not like within our community, but it's something that I think we need to shake, because at the end of the day, we just all need to get along, period, man. Like Rodney King said, man, can we all just fucking get along? Let's get along. I got seeds for 6 lifetimes. Kind of creepy hoarder now. If you were tan or darker, you had to hit the back door. Don't even pass the front door. That's what it was. Mr.SparkzAlot, I'm in the field. Hey, I could have been nowhere. I know I sure the fuck couldn't have died. I couldn't have been nowhere. I say that now, but because I had the mentality that I have. But back then, I think they'd have had to kill me, man. You not whipping my ass. I'm not picking nobody. Fuck, kill me, nigga. I'm dead. Hang me, whip me, do whatever the fuck you want to do. I'm not picking your cotton. I'll be damned. I'm not out here in the. Nope. Fuck it. Not going through this shit, man. No. And I think if I grew up during the civil rights movement, like I'd have been like a Martin or a Malcolm, or maybe not on that level, you know, as far as popularity wise, but I'd have had that mind frame from the jump. Like, this shit is wrong, man. Fuck makes you think I'm finna be out here picking cotton for your ass and I don't get you not fuck out of here, man. Nope. And to me, I don't know. It seems weird. Like the way history has slavery like written in the books, to me it seems like, okay, you had a whole bunch of people working a plantation, all right? Like I said, I wasn't there. And the people that in my family that were around at that time, like none of them is around to tell the story. And I haven't heard any stories from any of the elders, so to speak, in my family that are currently alive. Like, I couldn't tell you too much about my family history. It's like something that I have to look up in general. But I mean, to me, if you got 30 slaves on a plantation and it's like 2 or 3 white people running the plantation, like, to me, hey, they can't kill us all, man. We might have to take this fucking plantation over. We might have to take our freedom back. You know what I mean? But then again, I don't know. Maybe they wasn't thinking on that level. Like, history, the way it's taught in our schools, it makes it seem like the slaves that they brought over here were just some timid fucking creatures. Like, okay, we're just gonna let you enslave us and all this other shit. Like, I just don't see it actually happening like that. Like, you can't tell me that there's gotta be like countless stories of the slaves trying to take over the plantation. I know I would have. You know what I mean? Like, even in today's modern jails, I don't understand how there's jails. Like, I don't. You gonna tell me you got 7 COs for one block that's holding 20,000 prisoners or whatever? Like, how in the hell is y'all revolt? We gonna get the fuck up out of here today, nigga. We gonna grab a couple of these guys and they either they gonna go And we gonna stay here, or y'all gonna let us the fuck out and we gonna release these niggas. I'm not sitting in this 10x8 or 8x6 or on this plantation. You gonna have to end my life, because I'm not gonna live through this shit, right? I can't do it, man. May the human race learn. One of these days they will. From plantation to penitentiary, slavery has continued on, and I just continue. Anyways, congratulations, Pharaoh. Let me write your name down over here before I forget. You won the Ophelia. Ophelia. So, 6-pack, Ophelia. Ophelia goes to Farrah. Farrah cast love. That's my mommy. Mi madre. Hey, yo, guys, we got one more giveaway to do, and I don't know how to do it. I really don't know how to do it. Shout out to I don't know how many people. This shit say 27, but it be lying half the time. I don't know how many people watching. But shout out to you motherfuckers out there. I appreciate y'all being here. Let's do another bong rip, because I ain't had 20 plus people in my chat room in a while. It's been a while. Like, I used to be cool with YouTube. YouTube used to think I was cool, and I used to get like 30 viewers. I think 35 is like the highest number of views I've ever had in my chat room. But it's a cozy 35, man. I'd rather have a cozy 20, a cozy 25, or a cozy 35 than just 600 million people typing in the chat room. You can't even say hi to your friend, because by the time you see that shit, it's way up there already. Like, did he say hi back to me? I don't even know, man. I know I said hi to him. Let me say hi to him again. See if he sees me in the chat room with 6 million people typing. Cheers, guys. I like the sense of coziness. It's a little cozy. A little cozy. Patchman. As a matter of fact, buddy, you didn't win. But don't tell nobody. Don't. Shh. You didn't win, guy. Mr.SparkzAlot. Do the giveaway just like you just did. It's cool. When Nightbot picks. Yeah, no. Can't do the same thing over again, guy. What you think I am? Repeater? Not a repeater, man. Repeater. Time after time. I should make y'all go. Let me see. The American one, do you upload any videos, or you just like a shit ton of videos? So you don't have any videos on your playlist. You motherfucker, you. Excuse me. Shh. That's that raspberry Kirk. That raspberry Coke. Raspberry Coke burps. Did you win yet? No, bro. Tomorrow you can win, man. Okay? Tomorrow you can win. Bam. Look at No, bro. No, you fucking rock, bro. Look at No, bro did. He literally went over there and did that shit. Let me turn my goddamn camera off so y'all can see. No, so fucking cool. I told y'all, go over there and check out the American one. And No did. And 47 minutes ago, he said, yo, Sparksy sent me by. Cheers, man. He put the G on the end of that, like, man. It's a silent G. Man. Cheers, man. Pat's fan. 420's in the building. If anybody ever wants any type of grow lights, if you want your own custom grow lights, make sure you holler at Pets Fan 420. He's got a long waiting list because everybody and their mama want a light from him. But it'll be a quality product. It'll be American made. Well, it's not going to be, everything's not going to be like made in. It'll be assembled in America. Made with love. Assembled in America. America. You know what I mean, man? With the silent G, man. Silent G. Thin ass nylon. I don't know what that is. Is that the type of leggings you buy, old school grower? Old school grower is tired of his thin ass nylons ripping when he goes out at night to the clubs. He's like, I'm tired of these thin ass nylons ripping on me. Anyway, shout out to the American one. I was gonna have you guys go over here and type in something on the American one's video, but he doesn't have a video for you to type on. Take care, Ron. You all have a good night. Ready to hit hot fire in the building. What up, man? I forgot to say hi to you. I heard you come in here and I forgot to say hi. And I ain't forgot about you, bro. I kind of sort of did forget about you. I mean, I didn't forget about you. Your package is still sitting right here. But I don't know what the hell happened, man. Life happened. I got a little sidetracked, but I still got your giveaway package here. I still need to get in touch with you. Ready to hit hot fire. I'll get in touch with you soon, man. I've been going through a lot of stuff in life, as we all have. But I will send you a communique shortly. Sir, get back in touch with you. Did you win yet? Mr. Greenbody says. Pat Fan says no. Ronnie ready. Ronnie ready? I don't know what that means. Ronnie's ready. So the last, you know what? We haven't done a wheel in a whole long time. Very long time we haven't done a wheel. Let's go over here since I'm not going to use the Nightbot anymore. We're going to go to Pornhub.com and pull up this damn wheel. Did I just say Pornhub out loud? I did. Man, shameless plug. Y'all check out my videos on Pornhub.com. Just look up SparkzAlot. No Mr. Just SparkzAlot. Hashtag SSC. SSC. I'm not going to tell you what that means. If you don't have an imagination, then you're not going to get the joke. SSC. Not BBC. SSC. Hashtag SSC. SparkzAlot. Hey, not SC Johnson Wax, baby. What the hell am I looking for over here? I got this blue spark. What was I doing, y'all? I got sidetracked talking about Pornhubs. Shit. Imagination Nation. Reading rainbows. Butterfly in the sky. Oh, yes. I was going to classroomtools.net so I can go get the wheel. Yes, man. Yes, right here. No, not a name picker. Fudge. I went to the wrong one. I think I went, nope, I went to the right one. What? Good job. I went to the right one. You got the right one, baby. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Y'all remember that commercial in the day? Who can tell me what commercial? Damn. Do I need to go get more cigarettes already? Didn't I just buy these motherfuckers this morning? Oh, I'm not going to buy no more cigarettes till tomorrow. Did I win yet? Dude, you won 3 seconds ago when I said no, bro. She said I'm funny tonight. I'm not funny all the time. That's fucked up, bro. Ad closed by Google. Stop seeing this ad. Why this ad? No, I don't want to see this ad. Okay, so if you guys have never, ever, her name is Monalot. You see that shit? Monalot. Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, it's Miss Monalot. Matt Tress is here with Monalot. Matt Tress, mattress, is here with Monalot. Monalot. You can tell a guy made this fucking app. Because if a lady made this app, these would just be some random ass regular fucking names. But a dude made this. She's like, dude, I'm going to name somebody Ray. First name Ray, last name Gun. I'm going to name her first name Mona, last name Alot. What's the dude's name that runs the bar that Bark always calls up and be like, hey, I need to speak to Mona, last name Lot. Is there a Mona Lot here? Wait a minute. What's his name? What's the Springfield? What's the damn Duff Beer Bar shit? What's his name? Thank God he didn't say no Matt. No, wait, what? I'm lost. Monat. Monatural. I'm cutting the games off. Y'all get on my fucking nerves in here. Goddamn, just gaming it up. We need to edit this list. If you guys want to put your name on the list for the last giveaway of the night, thanks to the American one. Remember, you got to take care of your shipping and handling. You must be 18 or over. 18 or older. And or you gotta wait, what? What did I say? 18 and over. Subscribe to the American one. Take care of your shipping. This is for the Godiva. Godiva. I think it's Godiva. Godiva, Godiva, Godiva. This is from Godiva. Wait, what did I do now? I don't even know. What did you do? Go deep, Godiva? Godiva, go deep. I love Godiva chocolate. That shit is bomb.com. Chocolate. I want a Magnum ice cream bar right now for some odd reason. It's crazy. That's a good ice cream bar. Either that or a strawberry shortcake bar. Mr. Good. Is it Mr.? A Good Humor strawberry shortcake bar or a Magnum ice cream bar. Magnum ice cream bars. On point. Wait. Man, I keep hearing people pull up. Drive off. Pull up. What are y'all doing out here, man? There's a lot of shit going on, man. What do you mean, Bert? Oi! Execute, lock screen. Oh, enter setup. Oh, shit. Pat Fan is finna hack the chat room, y'all. Y'all ain't gonna be able to type nothing in the chat room. He hacking shit. Ew. You're gonna shave your legs tonight, Sailor Baker Maid Stoney? You were one of those guys, huh? You shaved your legs, bro? That's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. I shaved my what are they called? The proper term for nipples. I shaved my nipples. I'm just playing. Was that too much information? Don't tell nobody. It was getting hella hairy. I'm like, how in the hell does hair grow out of your nipples? It's ridiculous. Not out of your nipples, but around them. Nipply, hairy areola. Hashtag Harryola. Oh my gosh. Okay, stop. Now, for real. Let's get names on this damn list so we can get this wheel done so I can get up off of here. Because I do have to work in the morning. And I've been on here for 2 hours. Too fucking long. Yes, I've been on here for 2 hours and 2.5 minutes. This should have been a 2.5 minute mail call. And I should have got out the door. But I've been on here kicking it with y'all. Because you guys are cool, man. You're cool. And plus, Mother Nature said if you guys have not been told today that you're awesome, keep your ears open because somebody will tell you. Let me stop. What kind of weed am I smoking? This shit is called Limelight. And I know nobody asked me that in the chat room, but I told you guys anyway. So, if you're 18 and over, you don't mind taking care of your shipping and handling, and you want to win some Godiva beans, don't ask the chocolate maker what's in the chocolate, okay? Just eat the fucking chocolate bar and be happy, all right? Eat it and be happy. For real. Godiva chocolates, no, Godiva seeds, Godiva genetics. These are good. They're going to be excellent for... Did you leave and come back in, mother sucker? She just wanted to hear her angelic voices come out of the air. Mother Nature just floated into the chat room. I don't know where she came from, but she kind of floated in here like Chris Angel doing a fucking magic trick. It was smoke coming out everywhere. Strobe lights came out and shit. I don't even know how that happened. I didn't pay for that. I'm not paying for it. Y'all better not bill me for all them goddamn special effects and shit. Goddamn Mother Nature and her. Wait a minute. Pat's fan is putting shit in the chat room. He's doing crazy stuff, man. I don't know what's wrong with y'all guys. Dale. What up, Dale? Wait, is that Dale? Dio? Is that Dale? Was that you guy? That is you, bro. Bro, Dale. I think I tried to email you about your your auction prize a while back. I don't know. It's been a while. I still have your water pipe, sir. If you still want to pick it up. If not, I will put it back into the auction box. And the next time we do an auction, I'll auction it off again. But I haven't heard from you since the auction. That's been a while ago. We auctioned off that water pipe. The water pipe, sir. Deo, 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 deo. 81, 81. Yes, that means he is 12 and a half years old tomorrow. Tomorrow. Deo, deo, come and me one go home. I'm just playing. I don't want to go home. I already am home. I forgot. Don't tell nobody. So, let's get this giveaway over with. For real. Let me stop playing. Let me turn my camera off. My cigarette's going. I can say hi to y'all and talk. No, go out, cigarette. Stop putting up them damn smoke flame signals. I'm thirsty than a mofo. Cotton mouth. Oh, snaps. Okay, so 18 and over. Take care of your shipping. Subscribe to the American one. If you want in, if you want in on the giveaway, and you want me to put your name on this little list right here, I need you to type in the chat room, the American one rocks. The American one rocks. I don't care how you spell rocks. You can spell it R-O-X. You can spell it R-O-C-K-X. You can spell it, I don't know how else you would spell rocks, but yeah, you can spell it. The American one rocks. If you want to enter the giveaway, Stony Baker MD, I see you out there. He's like, I want to enter, guy. I want to enter. So I got Grandpa. I'm just going to put Grandpa in there because that's my Grandpa. Y'all know who the fuck Grandpa is. That's Stony. Stony is my Grandpa. Wait a minute. Shit. Slow down. Wait a minute. What's up, big guy? What's up, dude? Hollywood Dolo in the building, ladies and gentlemen. What up? Solo. Shit. Leilani. Let me get you over here. Leilami. No, not Leilami. Llamas. We got Dio. We got Mother Nate. I don't know if that's an entry for Mother Nature or not. Shit. I just fucked the name all up. Mother, may I? Wait a minute. Who's after Mother? Shh. Oh my gosh, you guys are typing too fucking fast, man. I got to scroll back up. Scroll up. So I got Mother Nature. I got old school. Shit. I got Jaw 411. I got Chosen One. Who's after Chosen One? Hollywood. I got Mr. J Rock. Oh, I got I hate autocorrect. Wait, Grandpa OG, Leilani. I got Leilani in here already. Green Body. Verde. I don't know how to spell body. I don't know how to say body in Espanol, but I'm just gonna call you Verde. Hollywood. I want in, buddy. Shh, I hate autocorrect. Wait a minute. Let me see if I got everybody. Salamis. So we got Stony. Put Grandpa in there. Hollywood Solo said, "What's up, guy? I'm so happy you said what's up to me before you said you wanted in the giveaway, because that's grounds for violation when you don't do that shit." But Hollywood Solo's like, "Sup, big guy? What's up, dudes? Dude." Okay, so we got Leilani. Damn it. The chat room keeps it moving. It's getting on my nerves. Let's go back down here. Hey, gotta go chop some broccoli. Have a great night. Chat, thanks, SparkzAlot. You rock. I'm not your son, guy. Don't call me son, Dad. Okay? Don't call me son, Dad. I'm just playing. Shout out to the No Grow man. Have a good one. Let's go back up here. So I got Grandpa in there. I got Lady. You know what? If you don't see your name on the list, because I'm not going to keep trying to fucking scroll up while y'all type. Because every time y'all type, my list scroll down. They just don't want to stop where it's at. So I'm going to call out the names. Matter of fact, if you don't see your name on the wheel list, you need to put in the American One Rocks. Make sure, I'm going to tell y'all right now, I don't want to hear nothing about what I didn't know. You must be over 18 to get your name on this list. You got to take care of your shipping to get your name on this list. And you have to be subscribed to the American One. I don't even care if you subscribe to me or not. Like, you could have just came in here not knowing who I am, just saw that I was live and been like, dude, I don't know if I want to subscribe to this guy or not, but I want to enter the giveaway, so I'm going to at least subscribe to the American One. Like, you ain't even got to be subscribed to me. Matter of fact, you can click unsubscribe and go over and subscribe to American. I'm just playing. Don't unsubscribe to me. Please. I'm just playing. For real, for real. You got to be subscribed to the American One. You got to take care of your shipping. You got to be 18 and over. So, do I need to take anybody's name off this list? Anybody? I need to take your name off the list. I don't want anybody to be like, well, I came in late, and everybody else was like, dude, putting their names out here, and I was just like, so I put my name out there, and I didn't know I had to be 18, or I didn't know I had to pay, or I didn't know that I had to be subscribed to the American One. I didn't know. So, can I get a second witness? I'm going to call second witness. See something, say something. That's your new nick. Matter of fact, I'm going to write that down. See something, say something. Can I get a witness? He's like, I got 2 witnesses for you. I'll be your first witness, and I got a cousin named Leroy. He'll be your second witness. He wasn't even here, but we're going to collaborate our stories. He going to be your second witness. No, Fairy, you cannot be out. Wait a minute. Who won the first giveaway? No. I didn't put No's name. No, you can't be on the list for the second giveaway. Look, you guys already know my 30-day rule, okay? You won one American One giveaway today. So you can't win another American One sponsored giveaway for 30 more days. Okay, sweetheart? Stop being greedy. Ooh, Fairy, you're going to make me turn my camera on and give you this face. I'm just playing. Once again, if your name is not on the list and you feel like your name should be on... Wait, I've been through so much this week. I don't get a pass. No. What is a pass? This ain't... You got to go to the bathroom. You want me to write you a hall pass so the hall monitor don't get you? She said, can I get a pass, officer? That was fair, like... opening up her shirt a little bit and sticking her chi-chis out the window a little bit. Like, but officer, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be speeding. I didn't know I was supposed to be speeding through here, officer. Please just give me a warning. Can I get a pass? I need a pass. Are we playing basketball? You finna go up for the layup and I'm finna shoot you a pass? Here you go, pass. Catch. Oh my gosh. Girl. You better be glad I love you, girl. You better be glad I love you, girl. Ooh. My wife cries when pulled over. It's stupid and works. Hey, man. I turn into a total white dude when I get pulled over. I'm like, yes, officer. What? Yes, I am very articulate. Oh, I speak well for my... What the fuck does that mean, I speak well? For a person of my... I speak well? Nigga, do you know I cuss your motherfucker? Speak well. I've never understood that compliment. You speak well, sir. Yeah. Meaning I'm supposed to be illiterate and fucking eating watermelon or something right now. Chicken wings and shit. Let me stop. I'm gonna stop for real, for real. Is everybody's name on this list right here? Because I'm finna go crazy. Farrah trying to make me go crazy because I did a number giveaway earlier and that made her go crazy. So now she trying to return the favor and make SparkzAlot go crazy. What are we gonna do? The American one rocks, Southern Gypsy said. You know what? She's like, and my name's not on the list. Bless your heart, sugar. Let me put Southern on here. Iced tea. Southern. I want some iced tea. It looks like Southern Gypsy couldn't get enough people on the damn list because everybody's waiting on me to do this damn giveaway. Here, what you trying to do, Mother Nature? Free for all in the chat room? I'll do a free for all with you. Let me type on. Free for all in the chat room. I'm gonna do a heist in the chat room too, because I need some money. Y'all just been in the chat room getting all types of money and shit. What else do we do? Heist, free for all, duel. What is the other one? Ain't it one more? Free for all, heist. What else? It's something else, ain't it? You got the duel, you got the free for all, you got oh yeah, boss. Hi, my name is Todd. Thank you, second witness. He was like, dude, you don't know your own fucking games, bro. Okay, I hope everybody's name on the list. I'm finna close the list. We got 21 people watching. Says my thing. I don't know if that's right or not. But we got uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ochos. Wait a minute. I turned around for a second. Start over again. Uno. Repeat it. Repeat it with me, class. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, 10. 11, 12, 13, no 14, my friend, 14, uno. So we got 13 out of 21 participating. That's not bad. That's like 2/3 of the chat room. Yeah, I know how to do my math because I speak well. I speak well. You speak very well, sir. Well, thank you. I don't know what the fuck that means, but okay, I'm gonna say this list. Submit. Boom. You guys know how the list goes. If you don't know how the list goes, here goes how the list goes. I'm gonna tell you this once. I'm gonna tell you this twice. I'm not gonna tell you twice. For real. Okay. This is called the Last Stoner Standing list. For all you newbies out there, I don't think there's new people in the chat room because I'm not that popular. The family is strong. I'm glad y'all here. It's cozy. It's like Cheers. Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name. Yeah. And they're always glad you came. Yeah. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. I wonder if I could do these upside down, like some upside down shades. Let me see. Nah. Let me stop playing with the American One stickers, because y'all be like, man, I got some SparkzAlot DNA on my shit. He was putting the stickers on his fucking eyelids, and he got his DNA all over my fucking sticker, man. Ain't nobody tell you put your filthy hands on my sticker, bro. Your DNA and shit on my sticker. What are you doing, guy? What are you doing? Do it. Hey. Okay, for real. These are the rules of the wheel. This bucket's not over there. It's over there. Everything's backwards. I'm pointing in the direction where the wheel is, but my camera's flipped. Yeah, my camera's flipped because that Bob Marley picture. Wait a minute. The Bob Marley picture is over there, and it's over there. But the wheel is over there. Oh my gosh. Whatever. I don't even care no more. I quit. Oh yeah, we gotta do this giveaway. Fud sickles. Okay, so for real. If your name's on the list, the last person on the wheel wins the prize. Okay, everybody else gets talked about left and right. It's like the roast in the wheel, because I'll talk bad about you. You got baby lungs. It's the last stoner standing wheel, okay? That means we're gonna smoke. Well, I'm not, because I'm not on the wheel with y'all. I get to sit up here and smoke my own joints, blunts and bong rips and shit in the background and talk about y'all while y'all falling off the wheel because you lose your balance or sleepy or whatever. Anyways, The guy on the couch is sitting behind the stage, and he's ready for everybody that falls asleep. You can just cuddle on the couch with him. If there's paramedics on standby. If you feel woozy, you can't smoke no more, you think you're gonna green out or something, paramedics is on standby. It's gonna be a lot of weed smoking on the wheel. Somebody gonna pass out. Don't push nobody. Keep your hands to yourself, okay? Unless you passing some weeds. Then you can, even then, keep your hands to yourself. You ain't gotta touch me passing the blunt, man. Here, fucking blunt. Anyways, the wheel is on chosen one right now. Are there any questions about the wheel before we get started? I don't want anybody to be all dazed and confused and shit like, wait, what? But the wheel landed on me. I thought I won. No! I wish we could all pass our weed to the guy to our right and get fried. Wait, pass the doobie to the left-hand side, bro. You ain't never heard the song, man? What's wrong with you, Grandpa? Wait, he might be pre-pass the doobie to the left-hand side song. Let's see. Hey, Google. What year did Pass the Dutchie come out?
Pass the Dutchie was released in October 1982.
Wait a minute. Well, fuck. Grandpa is older than Pass the Dutchie. I'm older than Pass the Dutchie. Ain't that crazy? Maybe we are supposed to pass the Dutchie to the right-hand side. Nope, I'm going with the song. Grandpa's a fucking rebel. He's like, no, I'm not listening to the song. I'm passing it to the right. If you got something to say about it, say something about it. I don't know. Anyways, Hollywood Solo. Mother Nature said 98. Are you serious? I graduated high school in 1998. Many. Damn. I've been out of high school for 21 years. Has it been 21 years already? Ooh, wait. That's a long. Is it 21 years? Damn. I've been out of high school almost as long as I've been able to drink. Wait a minute. No. Time out. I take that back. I've been out of high school for a very long time, my friend. Don't tell nobody. The years just go by. Stoney was born in 77. No, Stoney was born in like 1877. He got them super old man muscles, yo. That pop out of Sailor Man. Mr. Greenbody, you lost, man. You can't get in. Anyways, Steve Javelin champion. State javelin champion. Yeah, see, they don't even do that shit in school no more, so you know you old. Stoney's so old, they used to do the javelin toss at PE and shit. Oh my gosh. You either old as hell or you went to private school and was with the privileged kids. It's one of the two, man. Either way, you my grandpa, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm going to take another bong rip real quick before we get ready to pass this cannabis around on the wheel. Ooh, I almost got water in my mouth. I think I got some on my lips. And that's dirty water. Dirty bong water. Okay, so I low-key want to go make me a cup of coffee, but I need to spin this wheel for you guys. Fuck. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the wheel. I'm going to go start my coffee and come back. Spin the wheel again. Y'all know how it goes. I don't know what happened to my music. My music was on. My phone's not charging. Where's my phone at? Golly, Moses. Golly, Moses. What? Yeah, you sure are correct. You sure are right. Let me go back up here. I gotta do something real quick. This just in. Wait, can I get him? Is he far enough? Is it too far? Is he way far up there? Nobody can like you do. I just saw him. Wait, where'd it go? Dude, like, right there. Bam. Bam. Boom. Chicka wow wow. Now, can I go back all the way down to the bottom? Can I go all the way back down to the bottom? Go back all the way down to the bottom. I'll be 34 on Halloween. I had to remember this year. Yeah, they say after a while you start forgetting how young you are, and yep, yeah. I know I'm 39, but I told somebody earlier, somebody asked me, and I was like 30. I had to think about it because, like, what? How old am I? Shit, I don't know how old I am. How old you need me to be? I'm just playing. I'm 12 and a half and 3/4. Second, buddy. Okay, so I didn't see any questions in the chat room. I wasn't really looking, but I hope everybody knows how to play this damn wheel. The last person standing, the last stoner on the wheel wins the prize. Today's prize is a 6-pack of Godiva, not chocolates, souvenir genetics. These are for people over the age of 18. Once again, thank you, the American one. If you're not subscribed to him, y'all need to go check his channel out. For real, for real. One more time, it's this guy right here, the American one. If my slow ass computer will pull it up, boom, the American one. He has yet to put out any content on the YouTubes that I know about, but maybe one of these days, no videos on the YouTube. Damn it, the American one. If you don't go outside and just shoot some video of the sky for like 3 minutes and then upload that video. That way you'll have something. I guess people can comment on your discussion page, but I don't think that's going to be around too much longer on the YouTubes. It could be. I'm going to comment on your shit. Make a freaking video already, guy. Exclamation mark. What do you think about that? Bam, I did it. Say something. Go comment. Say something. Say something, Chosen. Come on, do it. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Pockets full up. What? Let's go to the wheel. I really need some coffee. Y'all don't know how I feel. Chosen one. What are you smoking, Chosen? I need to find out. Wait, what? SparkzAlot, look up. Second witness, one of these days, Alice. One of these days. The IG link in that picture about, wait, huh? The IG link is in that picture and my about link. IG? I get that. Everybody knows you're on IG. I don't give a damn about you being on IG. I'm talking about on Instagram. You know what? I think that's the American one trying to get me to plug his IG in here for y'all. I'm not going to be doing all this promoting for y'all, mother. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. For you guys that are on your PC or personal computer and want to go check out the American one, y'all can pull up his... Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. What? No, I'm not logging into Instagram, you mother sucker. Look at those beans. Those beans have butts on them. You see that shit? They're twinsies. That's a lot of twinsy beans, man. Did you make those motherfuckers, bro? You made these motherfuckers? Is this the Amy Aces? What strain is this with all these bubble butt beans, man? That shit look at them motherfuckers look like some little baby garlics and shit, bro. Bruh, why your beans look like garlics? You can zoom in up close on some of them, like this one right here. That shit look like a booty, bro. Look like a booty, bro. This one right here look like a crack. That look like a crack. They kind of look like coffee beans, though, in a minute. Is that coffee beans, bro? Look at them seeds. These is the Godiva beans right here. Let me look in here. I don't see none. You ain't send me none of them. I see how you do me, man. You keep all the good shit to yourself, huh, man? I see. That's the way to do it, though, man. That's the way to do it, man. I'm just playing with you. You know I'm playing with you, man. But you can. You keep all the good shit to yourself. You give everybody else the, you can have some of these. I remember. I need to shut my window because I hear too much shit. I'm turning into that nosy neighbor that wants to listen to everything. Like, what happened? I'm trying to listen out for these cats because I've been having a stray cat problem. You guys that know me, I've talked about these freaking cats over here that like to hang out in my garbage can. One of my fellow neighbors likes to feed these little motherfuckers. I keep telling them, man, you keep feeding them cats, they gonna keep coming back, man. Every day this dude out there feeding the fucking cats. Anyways, one of the cats got into my vegetable garden the other day and ripped out all my fucking carrots while I was sleeping. Oh my gosh, I wanted to go outside with a spray bottle with some bleach in it and just spray every fucking cat I saw. But I'm not a bad person like that. Then I thought about going to get a BB gun, and I was like, nah, man, you don't want to be shooting no cats like that. What's wrong with you, man? Then I was like, animal control? I don't even know. I just don't want the cats to fuck with my garden, vegetables. I don't want, just stay away from my garden, cat. What can I do? Is there anything I can do out there that's like natural? Is there a spray? Hey, Google, how do I make cat repellent? I want some cat repellent. I'm gonna go
On the website wikihow.com, they say, to make homemade cat repellent, start by mixing 1 part white vinegar with 1 part water in a spray bottle. Then, add some liquid dish soap to the spray bottle and shake it to mix everything together. Once your repellent is thoroughly mixed, spray it on any indoor or outdoor surfaces where you don't want cats to go.
Words? Now I ain't gotta go buy no BB gun, see? It was that simple. Non-violent, baby. Non-violent. Okay, so apple cider vinegar or vinegar? Water, vinegar, soap? That's what I put on my plants sometimes when I need to. That's like a pesticide, insecticide. Get the fuck. Cats don't like apple cider vinegar? I'm gonna have to try that out, man. I'm gonna have to try that out. You can kill bugs with that as well. Okay, so did I put the American one goddamn thing in here? Instagram? Come on, man. Go over here one more time. Instagram, the American one. Look, I ain't giving you no more plugs, man. The next one gonna cost you, man. It's gonna be free 99. I got free 99. Kills bugs and raids cats. 2 for 1. I don't know if well, I guess I can spray that in the garden. I can spray that in the garden as well. Fuck yeah, bro. That's cool. Anyways, look at those little bitty trees. I'm gonna get off this guy's page because we got a giveaway to do. The American one, see, first it was no. No was trying to get me all sidetracked and shit. Now this is the American one. Did Chosen One say what he was smoking on in the chat room, or he just don't care? He ain't even here no more. He just put his name on there and left out. He probably at work. Every time Chosen One come and be like, hey y'all, I'm watching at work, man. I'm sneaking watching at work, man. Sneaking. I hope you're not a security guard watching me, because you supposed to be watching your place. Top flight security, Craig. Chosen One. What are you smoking on, guy? I'm finna go make my coffee because y'all bullshitting. Chosen One taking forever to tell me what he's smoking on, so I know what we smoking on the wheel. If he don't say something in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I said we smoking on some Reggie. Chosen One done brought the Reggie. He got that old 1992 Reggie, Mexican brown. He called it Reggie. Mr.SparkzAlot, email for the bubbler. Cold show. Okay. Yeah. Chosen One is passing around some Reggie. So whoever falls off is just, it's not that they got baby lungs. They just don't want to smoke no goddamn Reggie. So Chosen One brought the Reggie to the wheel. I don't know what's taking forever. I'm supposed to be going to get my damn coffee made right now. Ooh, I should go. Hollywood Solo's like, bail me out of jail, bro. No, I'm not bailing nobody out of jail. Mother Nature. She's such a cannabis snob. She was like, you know what? I don't want to smoke this fucking Reggie. I'm out of here, guys. I'm out of here. No Reggie for me. I don't blame you because I wouldn't have smoked that shit either. Chosen One, you better bring some better weed next time, man. I'm just playing. For real. Mother Nature, thank you for entering. But you are not the last stoner standing. So you can go sit on the couch over there next to the guy that's sleeping, or you can pull up a chair. We got some chairs right there too. Or you're not being detained. You're free to leave. We're gonna take Mother Nature's name off the list over here. Remove. Remove. Did I not click remove? Remove. Come on, Geico. Approved, remove. They don't want to take her name off the list. My computer's acting stupid right now. How about if I turn my camera off? Is that going to affect anything? Remove. Remove. Oh my gosh. Mother Nature broke the fucking wheel, guys. See? See? Just when I was gonna go get the coffee, am I sitting next to you? You wanna come up in the DJ booth, huh? Security, let her in, cuz let her. I'm just playing. You know I ain't talking bad about it. I talk bad about everybody. But you broke the game. Look, the shit don't even want to. Oh, it took you off. I had to have technical support come fix the wheel because you broke the wheel. You broke it, Mother Nature. I'm just playing. Chosen one still's got the boo-boo running around on the wheel. Don't nobody want to smoke the boo-boo with Chosen one, but they hitting it. They don't want to abuse cannabis. They don't want to throw it away because that would be cannabis abuse. Or cannabis abuse. So they are going to hit it one time. And they're going to pull a Bill Clinton and say, dude, I did not inhale that shit, man. So let's see who's going to... I got to go get me some coffee, guys. Or I'm going to pass the fuck out on y'all because I'm tired. I got to be at work tomorrow. But I do want to finish this giveaway, so I'll be right back. Who's going to lose? Who's going to fall off the wheel? Chosen one, light that boo-boo up and pass it around, man. Pass it around, man. Where's my coffee cup? Oh, no, that was a lot of silence. I gotta do a lot. I have a Keurig, but I don't have K cups. I gotta fill my Keurig. I mean, I got a refillable K cup. Because them fucking K cups, not only are they really a waste, them K cups, that's a lot of garbage ends up to the landfill. If you just buy your own coffee and get you a refillable K cup with your Keurig, then I think that's fine. But I gotta go fill my damn Keurig thing up. So I came back in here to tell Leilani, damn, mama, you not on the wheel no more, Leilani. I'm sorry, Leilani. Thanks for entering, but Leilani, the ladies is not smoking the boo-boo tonight. They like, you know what, niggas, y'all better bring some better weed to the table next time you come through here. Who you think I am? I am Leilani and I don't smoke the boo-boo. Mother Nature don't smoke the boo-boo. She was like, nope, I don't want none of that shit. Leilani said, nope, I don't want none. Do I have to click this 3 times? Remove. 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 Oh my gosh, my computer's acting stupid right now, guys. I don't know what's going on. I could be in there making my coffee right now, and I'm waiting on that damn thing to take Leilani's name. See, the ladies don't want to leave, but y'all done brought the boo-boo weed, and they're like, I'm going over there. The guy on the couch passed out. I'm going to take the joint he left in his mouth or something. Come on. This shit don't want to come off. Darn it. I guess I got to wait on my computer to catch up with itself because it's on hiatus right now. I wonder if I refresh this shit if it's going to take all the names off the list. Am I not clicking it in the right spot? Maybe I wasn't touching it in the right spot. Maybe it wants to be caressed a certain way. Hollywood Solo, sir. What you smoking on out there, man? I see your name in the chat room. You typing this shit. What you smoking on, bro? What were we smoking on the wheel? They done got rid of that Reggie. I'm glad it was just a joint. It was a long joint because it went around twice. It wasn't really that long. Didn't nobody want to hit that motherfucker. It kept going out. But don't tell nobody. Chosen one, you better bring some better. Next time, don't be bringing that Reggie to the wheel, man. You better be in the chat room. If you're not here to respond, we just going to assume that you got some of that Reggie you smoking on. And I know Chosen One's not smoking on that Reggie for real, for real. He probably ain't even in here no more. He probably at work on his coffee break right now. He forgot he put me on. I'm inside his drawer on mute just playing right now. That's crazy. That's crazy. Hollywood Solo, man. What you smoking on, bro? I just want to make my coffee and y'all ain't answering me. We finna smoke some more boo-boo. Hollywood Solo, I know you ain't got that boo-boo, man. You just entered the darn heist, so I know you in the chat room. You can just make up a name if you ain't smoking no fire. Just be like, you know what, I'm smoking that super kind of like, that crypto kind of, I don't know, man. What you smoking on out there, man? Double OG guap, but wait, I'm smoking some God's gift. And some of your double OG guap berries are last. It's a shame. The last of the strain. Hands down, double OG guap berries is fire. Well, thanks for the compliment, sir. I'm sorry that that's your last, man. You should have cloned that baby, bro. If not, man, I got beans, man. I ain't always got beans, but I still got quite a little bit of the double OG guap berries, man. Get with me. So he said God's gift. We gonna pass this God's gift around on the wheel and see who's gonna fall off. I'm gonna go fill up my coffee, my Keurig coffee cup in the meantime. So light that shit up, Hollywood. Well, guys, I got some good news and I got some bad news. The bad news is I only have enough coffee for literally 1 cup of coffee, so I'm gonna save that for in the morning. Note to self, buy some more coffee. Southern Gypsy, you know what? I think the girls is on strike or something, because it's been all 3 ladies that got knocked off the wheel. We got Southern Gypsy, fell off the wheel. She fell off the wheel. Y'all didn't see that shit? That shit was crazy. She was like, this God's gift is amazing. And she fell off the wheel. It was okay there because we had some people on standby. The outside of the wheel is just stuffed with pillows. So if you fall, you don't get hurt. You can pass out. Like, did she get up, Southern Gypsy? Is you up over there? Southern Gypsy said, I'm just going to lay down right here. Y'all let me know who the winner is. So, y'all, can we put some, yeah. Take care of Southern Gypsy over there. There you go. Southern Gypsy, you are not the last understanding. Goodbye. Oh, look, it worked the first time right there. We still smoking that Hollywood Solo God's gift over here, baby. He rolled a fat backwood. It's still going on, man. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh, yeah, the good news is I got hot chocolate, so I made me some hot chocolate. I'll be back. Don't nobody care that you jacked up on Mountain Dew, guy. That's too much information, bro. You're not supposed to be telling people that you jacked up on Mountain Dew, man. Man, look at that. Hot cocoa in less than 2 minutes. Keurigs are crazy. Dio. Not B.O. like body odor, but D like these nachos. These nachos are not good. These nachos. Doe, says Stony Baker mate. Deo, he said he don't like the God's gift. Said he's never been a big fan. He said it was some good smoke. He's just not a big fan of the God's gift. So he politely walked off the wheel. He's sitting next to Southern Gypsy, fanning her off with one of those old school Chinese flip fans. You know the ones you open up like, and then you fan yourself off. He's over there, yep, fanning her off. Wait, what? The Chinese flip fan broke? Hey, y'all go over there, get some of them palm tree leaf branches and come over here and give him the Deo so he can fan Southern Gypsy off, because She fell off the wheel, man. But everybody did sign no health insurance, non-disclosure business. So if you fall, that's on y'all. That ain't on me. If you fall, it's on y'all. Hollywood Solo, he still got the guys. Oh wait, he said he has some double OG guap berries too, huh? You gonna share some of that, man? Share some of that with us. So we're gonna smoke the double OG guap berries, the last of Hollywood Solo's double OG guap berries. We're gonna smoke the last of that shit with him. Who gonna fall off the wheel? Is it gonna be John 411? Is it gonna be Old School Grower? I don't know. Old School Grower got them big Old School Grower got them big lungs. He's like, nope, you're not gonna really be around John 411. John 411, I don't know what happened to him. I think Chosen One like gave him a little shove off the wheel, low key. I'm not gonna tell nobody, but let's go back to the instant replay, Bob. We don't have an instant replay. We're too broke to have cameras, guy. Shit, you see any cameras on the wheel? Exactly. This ain't Walmart. We don't need to see your every movement. Okay, so since we're in the middle of Mr. J Rockin' and Hollywood Solo, right in the middle, I think I'll fire up some of this limelight that I'm smoking over here. Shout out to whoever grew this shit, because it's pretty damn decent, man. Pretty damn decent. Vegas is finally starting to get some decent weed in the dispensary. Thank you, Jesus. Because when the dispensaries first opened, these fools did not know what the hell they was doing out here in these grow houses. But I get it, because I didn't know how to grow weed until I knew how to grow weed. And I still don't know how to grow weed. I'm still learning how to grow weed. Just like, anyways. What you say? Hit the road, Jack. Mother Nature, 68% in love with Stunning Baker Man. Ain't that so sweet? That's so sweet. So sweet. I was going to say cute and sweet at the same time. I don't know what the hell I try to throw them words together, but we smoking some limelight on the wheel. Congratulations. This is the top 8. It's great. We got Mr. J Rock, Mr. Greenbody, Josh Warrior. See something, say something. That's Second Witness. Can I get a witness? We got Old School Grandpa, Double OG, Triple OG, Stoner, Baker Maid, and the children in the chat room. We got Old School, we got Chosen Hollywood. Goddamn, y'all done kicked all the ladies off the wheel, you stingy You niggas done kicked all the ladies off the wheel, man. What's wrong with y'all, dude? Is chivalry dead? These guys, y'all ain't helped stop now one of the ladies fall, and I ain't seen nobody put their arm around you like mom used to back in the day. Like, oh, don't fall, baby. Y'all ain't did none of that shit. Just let the ladies fall clean off the wheel, man. Shame on you guys. I ought to just end the giveaway right now. What you think the American one? Chivalry is dead, bruh. Look at this shit, man. The wheel is full of guys. All these are the same guys that was breaking their neck to say, hey, ladies, in the chat room earlier. They were trying to speak to all the lady folks, all the women. They was plucking their feathers out like the peacock. Hey, ladies. But y'all didn't want to help them stop from falling off the. What's wrong with y'all, man? Shame on you, Hollywood, Mr. J Rock, Green Crack Man, Chosen One. This guy said ladies first. Whoa! You know what? I'm gonna tell a short story before I spin the wheel. I was at work today, and I was working with these 2 younger females, 2 younger ladies, 2 younger women, whatever. And one of them, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Willow. Has anybody in the chat room ever seen the movie Willow? Can I get a raise of hands in the chat room if you've ever seen the movie Willow back in the day? This chick reminds me of like a cast member, Willow. You know what I mean? And like, it's crazy. She's cute. But she reminds me, like every time I see her, I just think of the movie Willow. I'm like, oh my gosh, there goes. And I told her, like, she knows that I told her, well, I'm like, you old enough to remember Willow, right? She just started laughing. I was like, anyway, she cool as hell, like cool people. But her and her boyfriend broke up today. She was kind of sad. And she came to work with a fucking broke toe today. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong? She's showing me pictures of a broke toe, an x-ray. I'm like, okay, let me run your foot over. And and we can make it a workers' comp. Like, I guess she hurt herself at home, and I was just fucking with her. I'm like, I can run your. First, I asked her. I said, "You want me to step on it?" She was like, "Yeah, step on it." I'm like, "Your asses, I'm not stepping on your toe." I thought she was playing. Then she showed me an X-ray, and I'm like, "Damn, why is you at work? Why you ain't got no cast on your foot? Why is you here? Why is your boyfriend at home playing PlayStation and you at home? You at work with a broke fucking toe? What's wrong with society nowadays?" Anyways, I told her I was gonna run her toe over with something we can make it a workers' comp claim. She was like, "I already posted it on Facebook that I broke my toe, so I can't do that." I was like, "I'm joking. I'm not serious. I'm not finna get in no accident right now. I don't need no drug test. What's wrong with you? Put my life on the line for you." Just playing. For real though. Nah, we was getting ready to go up this escalator at work, and it was the chick that reminded me of the movie Willow and an apprentice, a younger female. She, I don't know, might be in her like early 20s. Maybe she might be 18, 19. I don't know how old she is, how young she is. Anyways, we had went to go pick up graphics from the show, like signs that they put throughout the hotel pointing direction to how to get to the show. So we had to go pick up these signs and bring them back to the area where we were staging all our stuff at. So the show was on the 3rd floor. We had to go to the 1st floor to get the rest of the signs. So we ride down the escalators and shit. And we're going back up the escalators, and I got a sign in my hand, and one of the chicks got like a base in their hand. Like, the sign is like foam almost, and then the base is like a cardboard base that you kind of fold in. It's cardboard you fold into like a triangle, and then you slide the sign in it, and the sign is like a base for the graphic or whatever. But I got a graphic with the base on it, and then the chicks like took the base and the graphic apart, so they'll both have something coming back, you know, from where we was going or whatever. But like when we got on the escalator, I was like, yeah, I waited on them to go. I was like, ladies first or whatever. And then I get on the escalator and I'm just looking up, like speaking to them. But me looking up, speaking to them, like all I see is like female body parts and shit. Not like naked body parts, but not, like all I see is ass in front of me and shit. And I'm like, I wonder if that's why niggas like came up with that ladies first shit. Just so we could sit behind y'all and watch like watch you from the back. I hate to see you go, but I love to see you leave. Like, that's crazy. Anyways, we're gonna smoke some more of this. What am I smoking? Limelight. Let me get my camera off here. You guys are probably laughing your asses off over there. GN Skis is in the building. We smoking that Limelight. Somebody's gonna pass out because this is some good shit. It puts me to sleep. Who's gonna fall asleep on the wheel? Is it gonna be Chosen One? Is it gonna be Old Man School Smithers? Old School Grower? Oh shit. He was like, the dank is too loud. The Limelight was too much for old school. He was like, man, I'm used to them 12 and 10%, 5% THCs, man. You can't be giving me this 30%, 20% shit, man. You're gonna make me. Security, can you guys politely escort old school grower next to the guy on the couch and put a partition in between both of them? Because the guy on the couch can get kind of excited, so to speak. Old school, go sit next to the guy on the couch. Guy, you are not the last owner standing. Thank you for participating. We gotta take your name off the list, man. Mr. J Rock, are you still in the building? Fine and dandy. I'm at work trying to get back home. Wait, you're at work trying to go back home? Did you just get to work? Are you getting ready to leave work? I'm lost. Gene Skis, Foxtail Farms, in the build. You must have heard your ears. Your ears was ringing? Because I was talking about you earlier. I was talking about how bad of a SparkzAlot I was for not sending your giveaway prize out yet. I've been kind of busy back and forth with work and my daughter in school and all types of shit. It's sitting right here in front of me. I just haven't sent it out yet. I ain't forgot about your Foxtail, so don't feel like Sparks is a bad guy. I'm not that dude. You know me, man. Anyways, Mr. J-Rock, for real, bro. Are you even here, man? Are you even... I need to smoke another bowl. My hot chocolate is so chocolatey and yummy and stuff. I need to smoke another bowl. Smoke another bowl. Smoke another bowl. Okay. I don't think Mr. J-Rock's here. I don't think he's here. Mr. J-Rock, what are you smoking? Okay, I guess Mr. J-Rock's not here. And although I did not say at the beginning that you need to be present to claim your prize, I think I just might start making that a rule for the future wheel giveaways, because if you're not here to claim your prize for a giveaway that we're doing live, it's kind of not fair for the people that are here, right? I'm drinking cocoa in a Hershey's chocolate fucking mug. How coincidental is that? It's not Hershey's chocolate cocoa, though, unfortunately. Maybe there's Hershey's chocolate in the hot cocoa. I don't even know. Who cares? Mr. J-Rock, he doesn't want to tell us what we're smoking? Okay, we're smoking some more Reggie. J-Rock's passing around the Reggie, guys. Who's going to cough their lungs off? Who's going to pass the gas? It's not gas. It's, oh, chosen one. It's chosen one. It's chosen. Chosen said, man, I can't take this shit, Sparks. He said, I've been smoking that good for too long, and Mr. J-Rock done brought that boo-boo round through here, man. Who stepped on this before? Mr. J-Rock, Chosen One said, it looked like your weed came from up underneath the lawnmower, man. You know the scrapings and shit you get from up underneath the lawnmower after you get done mowing your lawn? Them good old fresh grass clippings. I don't know what's going on in the chat room. Chosen One, you got to get off the wheel, man. I'm sorry, bro. He said, bro, I can't do it. I can't do it. So, one more again, Mr. J. Roxy got that. He's got that sticky, icky, Reggie cake. He calls it Reggie cake. Mr. J. Rock. Who's going to fall off the wheel next? Uh-oh. Is it something, she says something, she say. Second witness, first witness told on your ass. He took the deal. Sorry, second witness. First witness gave you up, and being that you're the second witness, we kind of got to take the first witness's word for it, because he was first, man. All right, second witness. First witness dropped the bomb on you, man. You going down, guy. You going down. No, you got to get off the wheel. I don't blame you, man. I wouldn't want to smoke Reggie on the wheel either. Mr. J-Rock is still on the wheel, and he's not here. Mr. J-Rock, what are we smoking, man? Can I take your name? I can take your name off. No, I can't. Shit. Wait a minute. I just fucked up the wheel. Fuck, did I just do that? I just did that, man. I just started the wheel all over again, bro. Damn, son. I gotta cry for a minute, guys. I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh, man, I can't believe I just did that shit, bruh. Man, how the fuck I did? I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what y'all want to do. You want me to whip? Y'all can whip me. I don't know what y'all want to do, man. I got to punish myself some type of way, man. I don't remember whose name was on the wheel. I remember who I kicked off, but I don't remember whose name was on the wheel. I don't remember. Shit. I wonder if I can remember whose name was off the wheel. Mother Nature's name was off. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. I know Grandpa was still on there. Leilani was gone. I know Leilani fell off the wheel. Deo fell off the wheel. Mother Nature fell off the wheel. Old School Grower fell off the wheel. See Something, Say Something fell off the wheel. I know your ass fell off the wheel. Because First Witness told on your ass. And Southern Gypsy fell off the wheel because she's a lady. And all the ladies was like, I'm not smoking this boo-boo shit y'all got on here. Is that about what the wheel looked like? Is somebody on the wheel that fell off the wheel that I need to take off? I'm sure you guys would know. Job 411 says I was off. Thank you for your honesty, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not that medicated. I just didn't know. This shit says edit, so I thought I could edit the wheel as it currently is. Comprende? I'm not that damn high. Y'all better cut that shit out, man. Cut that out, man. Ossifer, there's no blood in my THC system, okay? I always wanted to say that shit when the police pull me over and ask me if I'm smoking. I'm like, man, look. There's no blood in my THC system, okay? Shit. Leave me alone. Cheers, guys. There's no blood in my THC system. Shanae, let's edit this again. Job 411, thank you for your honesty, sir. I commend you. I commend you, sir. Are you listening to Ghetto Boys? My mind's playing tricks on me? No, I was listening to something earlier. Maybe this shit. I don't know what happened. I forgot what happened. Something happened. My music cut off. Oh, shit. Let me see that. Wait a minute. What? Why this picture look like it's from like the 80s? The 80s, I said. What was I getting ready to do? I was listening to some music. I played some words. I don't know what happened to it. They cut it off or something. My volume is super low.
This is the fucking shit I be talking about. Half-rapping ass motherfuckers.
You think it's a game? You don't think it's a game, man. What you niggas want? DMX. What you niggas want? See, DMX was cool. He asked niggas what they wanted, and he asked the females what they wanted. Well, he didn't ask the females. He asked the bitches. So I guess he wasn't talking to the ladies out there. He was talking to the bitches. What you bitches want from a nigga? Then he was asking niggas, what you niggas want? Don't nobody want nothing from you, DMX. Just rap shit. Just playing. So, is this list right? This list got to be right. Was that what we was at? We was at 6? That looked kind of right. I think that was right. We had Mr. J Rock, Hollywood Solo, Chosen One, Green, Mr. Greenbody, Josh Warrior, and Grandpa Paul. All on the list. Chosen One fell off the wheel already? Did he? Mr. Greenbody, what you looking at, bro? He got his eyes all over there looking at me. What you looking at, man? Ain't nothing over there, guy. Yeah, that's right. Chosen One fell off? Okay. Dang, y'all just jumping Chosen One? I wanted Chosen One to win. That's why I left his name on there. I can't remember my name, Todd. Shit. I mean, I could go back and rewind and be like, okay, it says recorded. Submit. Is this right? Ladies and gentlemen, I thought that See Something, Say Something, aka Second Witness, was the last person to fall off the list, but maybe it was Chosen. He still, you're my boy, Blue. Okay, so This is the top 5 that's very, very live. Mr. J-Rock's still on the list, even though he ain't in here no more. Mr. J-Rock, you the guy that make me see. I'm glad I appreciate Mr. J-Rock because he's the guy that makes me make rules. Grandpa, get your old ass off the wheel. You know you can't be smoking with us young folks. That's my grandpa, y'all. I be talking to him any kind of ways. Yep, I sure do. I talk to him any type of ways because I'm that new generation that don't give a fuck. I'm just playing. Grandpa, for real, get your old ass off the wheel, man. Can somebody come pull Stoney off the wheel? Not pull him off the wheel, but you know what I mean? Give him a hand, man. Help the old man cross the street. Shit. Get Stoney. Cheers, guys. What you niggas want? Ooh, wait. Wait a minute. Ride or die. I don't even know what that means. What are you saying, guy? Cheers, Mother Nature. So we got the top 4 plus no more on here. We're gonna have a winner tonight. Let me stop playing. I'm fucking around and get a copyright messing with y'all over here trying to party on a Saturday night. It's Saturday. Okay, so we got Green Crack on the chat room, Green Crack. Mr. Greenbody, aka Bear Day. Josh Warrior, Mr. J-Rock, Hollywood Dolo. Good luck to you guys. I don't know what we smoking. I'm smoking what I'm smoking, and y'all can smoke what you want to smoke on the wheel. I don't know. Mr. J-Rock, you're not here. And you're not here. No longer on the list. Is it Saturday? Wow, I know, right? Well, it's going to be Sunday in 8 minutes. In 8 minutes, it'll be Sunday. Well, yeah, in 8 minutes, it'll be Sunday. This is the top 3, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Just to make things a little bit interesting, I'm going to open up the betting polls right now. What? But Mr.SparkzAlot, it's 3 people on there. I know. This is going to make things interesting. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? I don't know who's going to win. If you think nobody's going to win, you must be crazy because somebody's got to win. So, don't put the number 0. If you think Mr. Greenbody, aka Verde, is going to win, then you can use... Shit, why did I do that? Josh Warrior. That's a long name, man, to be typing, man. Long name, man. Hollywood Dolo. Hollywood Dolo in the chat room, yo. Yiggity, yo. So, for real. If you want Hollywood Solo to win, if you think Hollywood Solo is going to win, put your money where your mouth is right now, man. Go ahead. Betting. I don't even know how many zeros that is. Is that 100,000? That is... Shit. Go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So is that 100,000? Can I put another one? I can't. Okay, so you can bet up to 100,000 of your credits on each player. There is no timer. I'm just going to start it right now. Start it right now. So, if you guys think somebody which one of these people do you think is going to win? Oh, man. I don't know if I doubled. Wait, where did I put the payout at? Where's the payout? Payout. Go back to betting. Payout 10%. Wait, I'm going to put it at 50% right now. Start. Boom. Okay, so if you think that Mr. Greenbody is going to win, use the number 1. If you think the Josh Warrior is going to win, use the number 2. If you think the Hollywood Solo is going to win, then you can use number 3. If you want to bet, type in !bet, followed by a space. The number of the person you think is going to win, followed by a space, and how much you want to bet. You can bet up to 100,000 credits. 100,000 credits. Results from the heist. The American one won 1.4 million credits. Good Lord. He snitched on y'all. And me. I'm the getaway driver. He took an Uber home. It's crazy. The American one robbed a bank and took an Uber home. Only chance? No, it's not the only chance. I'm going to do one more chance after this. Just going to raise the stakes. I'm going to raise the stakes. So, as of now, if you bet on somebody and they lose, then you just lose. You lose your money. You lose your money. But if you pick on somebody that doesn't lose right now, then you get your money. You get your money. Southern Gypsy said she bets on somebody. I don't know who she bet on. Let's go back over here to the betting. So far, we got 3 people betting on Mr. Greenbody, 2 people betting on Josh Warrior. I'm going to leave this back open for like 2 seconds. 1, 2. Is anybody else betting? Anybody else? Dang, didn't nobody bet on Hollywood Solo? That's fucked up, man. Hollywood Solo got a bet. I see you, guy. Hollywood Solo is the underdog right now. We got a 1, a 2, and a 3. I was gonna say, let me bet with my boy Hollywood Dolo right quick, man. I think Hollywood Dolo gonna win, man. Let me type this in. I bet. What's Hollywood Dolo number? That's 3, ain't it? Ain't Hollywood number 3? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, man. I'm gonna bet with Hollywood Dolo, man. Good luck to you, sir. Good luck to you, sir. Anyways, we're gonna stop this betting. Bow. Now it's 2, 2, 3. Y'all can't even see what I'm looking at. Ain't this about a B-I-E-I-O-Ch? There it is. So 2 people voted for Hollywood Solo, 2 people voted for Josh Warrior, and 3 people thought that Mr. Greenbody's gonna win. So as of right now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go roll this wheel, and I didn't think this all the way through. But good luck to you guys. Good luck to you guys. Evidently, Josh Warrior did not win. So these 2 people right here, we're going to remove. Delete Josh Warrior. Yes. We're going to delete Josh Warrior. So, can I pay like both of these folks out? Now, boom. Yes, I'm going to reward everybody that bet on Hollywood Solo. That bet on Josh Warrior. Wait, no, that's wrong. I took Josh Warriors off because he was the last. He fell off. I don't know what we were smoking or what he was smoking, but he passed out on the damn wheel. It's okay. He's all right. Paramedic said he's cool. Now I'm going to pick him as a winner as well because, yes, we're going to reward everybody that bet on Hollywood Solo so far. Now, boom. I'm going to increase the payouts. We're going to restart this in the chat room. If you think that Greenbody, a.k.a. Mr. Verde, man, is going to win, use number 1. If you think that Hollywood Dolo is going to win, use number 2. You can bet this is going to pay out 100% of what you bet. So if you bet 100,000, you should get 100,000 back. I think. I don't know. I don't make the books. The house makes the books. Y'all better stop robbing folks. I'm going to put my money with Hollywood Dolo. We riding to the end, man. We riding to the end, Hollywood. You better not lose, brother. You bet. Well, I already bet, so I can't bet again. But, yes. If you bet in the last one, you can't change your bet. You just going to either lose your money or you're going to get paid again. It's going to be one or the other. One or the other. Hollywood Solo, did you already place a bet? If you didn't, you got to put exclamation mark bet. Exclamation mark bet. The number of the person you want to vote on. and then the amount you want to vote. So if you want to vote on Mr. Greenbody, you type number 1. If you want to vote on yourself, you type number 2. But if you voted in the last round, you don't have to vote again. It's just stuck in there. What you're betting? I was going to be a butthole and type exactly what Mother Nature wrote in the chat room. Like, see if it'll let me in. Let me in. I can't copy this shit, though. It won't let me copy over here. For some odd-ass reason, I don't know why it won't let me copy. It'll let me highlight. It won't let me copy. Whatever. I don't even care anymore. Let me get on this heist, man. Y'all just keep making money, and I'm not making as much money as y'all, and it's making me look bad. Shit. It's making me look bad. Y'all gonna pass me up. What's the currency standing over here? What's y'all looking like over here? Let's see who got what points over here. Y'all with these 15 points, man. Y'all, what's up with that, man? Y'all don't come and see SparkzAlot no more. Angel Gaming Studios, where you at, man? Tyler Emery, Vito Music, Phil McCracken, Mr. Max Man, Root Heavy Metal. Where y'all at, man? Y'all got, wait. You 3 right here, you 15 pointers. Where y'all been, man? Y'all must have came in here, hit the like button and smash. Like, I'm out. I'm out, yo. Or hit the thumbs down. Ain't been back since. I'm going to send y'all parents a letter. Y'all playing hooky with the SparkzAlot show. I don't appreciate that. I might as well just mark it as 0 points. Reset 0. Not for everyone. I'm just playing. Let me get away from that button before I do something very, very silly. So it looks like right now Farrakast Love has almost 50 billion. Goddamn, you got a lot of 100,000 million billion. Yep, billion. You almost got 50 billion credits. That's a lot of damn credits. I don't know what you gonna do with them. She keep talking about cashing them in like this a bank for real. What the hell I'm supposed to give you? So silly. Big Ray got 35 billion. Pierre Canifly's 23 billion. Look at these billionaires. Everybody 18 billion. Queen Dye, Ocean Decor 17 billion. Southern Gypsy got 16. Bless your heart, sugar. Old school grower. They don't call him old for nothing. He got that old money. He got 11 billion, almost pushing 12 billion. Everybody else, they in the single digits. But Green Body, Okie Punchin' Oaks, Smacker, Poke Chop, Fried Rice, a.k.a. Fortune Cookie Genetics, a.k.a. Samica, a.k.a. Sam, a.k.a. Pork Chop, a.k.a. Slap, something with pork. I don't fucking know what his emoji say. Smack a Pork Chop, something like that. Anyways, let's go back up here. Let's go back over there. Did you guys get your votes in? I'm going to go back to the polls. It looks like 2 more people voted. So, we got 1 more person that voted for Mr. Greenbody. 1 more person voted for Hollywood Solo. I don't know who's going to win. Let's get over here. Spin the wheel. Good luck to both of you guys. You're winners in my book, whether you fell off the wheel or not. You're winners because you're here. Oh, shit. Let me click the web browser back on. And a 1. And a 2. And good luck, guys. Good. Oh, Hollywood Solo. You made me lose my fucking money, man. You made me lose my freaking money, man. I'm so mad at Hollywood Solo right now. I'm gonna have to cry again, ladies and gentlemen. This guy, the second most winningest mofo on the internet's webs. I'm just playing. He's the second most winningest mofo on this show. I know that much. Mother Nature says rigged. Mother Nature mad because she didn't win. She was the first one to get kicked off, but she was like, you know what? I don't want y'all bougie. I mean, y'all stink ass weed, man. Come correct it. Don't come at all. She said, I got them connoisseur lungs. She said, I knew this was boo-boo from the minute you opened the bag, baby. I couldn't smell nothing. Just playing. Shout out to Mother Nature. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. You guys rock. You guys and gals rock. So, let me go over here and reward these people that won because the house has to pay out its debts. Mr. Greenbody was the winner. Oh shit, I guess I gotta stop this, huh? Somebody could have low-key got a bet in last minute. That's crazy. Mr. Greenbody was the winner. We're gonna award everybody in the chat room that bet on Mr. Greenbody. And I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Oh shit, that's that old ass Easy. That's that old Easy. That shit crazy. Give me that. Wait, what? A brief interruption. Did you guys get paid in the chat room? Let's go see. Let's go. Everyone that bet on Verde has been rewarded 200,000. Wow. Farrah Cash Love, second witness, Southern Gypsy, and Job 411. Look, Farrah didn't believe in you, Hollywood. Southern didn't believe in you. Job 411 didn't believe in you. Second witness. Didn't none of these guys believe in you, Hollywood, man. But I had faith in you, bro. I have faith in you. Oh, wait. They can't even see what I'm talking about. Let me turn this off. Y'all see this shit? Everybody just got paid on Mr. Greenbody. They didn't believe in Hollywood Solo, man. Let me stop being the instigator, bro. For real. No, for real. Hollywood. Look, these guys, they had no faith. Farrah, second witness. I'm snitching. I'm seeing something, saying something, because second witness is here. Let me stop playing. I love y'all. For real. Mr. Greenbody. One. Mr. Greenbody 1Z. What you win, bro? You won the Godiva? I ain't sending you no slap, because you already got a slap. Mr. I win everything. 6-pack of Godiva. That's a perfect strain for Mr. Greenbody because he is such a diva. We're going to send him the Godiva. And I'm just playing. It's Godiva. Mr. Greenbody is not a diva. He's more like he's a Mr. Greenbody. So, tonight's winners were Mr. Greenbody, the No Girl, and Faircast Love. I do believe all of you guys and gals know how to get in touch with me. I do believe, yeah, all you guys know how to get in touch with me. Let me see. Scroll. Wagwan. Go. Wait, one down. Oregon. Mr. Green. I was just playing with you, Hollywood, man. They have faith in you. They just know the game is rigged, so they was like, I'm finna bet on Mr. Greenbody because he the most secondest, winningest person in Mr.SparkzAlot chat room. Mr. J Rock has won the most items from my show. Mr. Greenbody is in second place. And yeah, I don't know what it is. They're here a lot. And I mean, shit, the more you participate, the more likely it is that you're gonna win something. So congratulations to those three. No, Farrah, and Mr. Greenbody. Last but not least, you were the last winner of the night. So I know, buddy, but all love to you. I won a ton of beans from Mr.SparkzAlot. Yeah, you won a ton, but you haven't won as much as these guys. Those guys, nah. But yes, you won a ton. I mean, I wouldn't say a ton. You won some. There's some folks out there that has like every strain that I've made, excluding maybe a couple. I don't think anybody out there has everything I made. Maybe Mr. J Rock. I think Mr. J Rock might have all the strains that I've crossed. And then plus whatever else, like when I do the today's giveaway was brought to you by the American one. If y'all are just getting here or I don't know where you've been, but yeah, the American one made all this happen today. I've eased up on my giveaways for various reasons. Maybe I'll get into it in the future, but today is not the day. I'm getting kind of sleepy here. A little bit. I'm glad I didn't drink that coffee because I'd have been up for another 3 hours fucking mumbling. And I don't need to do that. I need to get some rest because I got to go to work tomorrow. I'm trying to be a responsible adult. I'm just playing. I won't have no issue getting to work tomorrow. But, yeah. Shout out to Freeway Ricky Ross, man. You's a scholar and a gentleman, pimping. I appreciate you taking the time to snap a photo with me today. Shout out to Jackie 420, man, and his lovely wife. What's her name? Lily? I forgot her name. I didn't go out there to see his wife. I went out there to see Jackie, so I really didn't pay her no attention. But shout out to the both of them, Ricky Ross. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Shout out to the American one. Shout out to who won again today, Farrah? No. And Mr. Green Body him damn self. Also, shout out to the stream boss up there, Brett Glasow, holding in strong. He up there holding in strong, man. He holding in strong. He been the stream boss for a minute. But everybody in chat, man. Job 411, Southern Gypsy, the American one, G and Skis, Hollywood Dolo, Farrahcast Love, Mother Nature, Nightbot. Nightbot in the chat room holding it down, man. Giving out commands and shit, taking names, kicking asses. Mr.SparkzAlot gives Mother Nature a huge hug. Wait a minute. How did that happen? You just had me give you a hug in the chat room? Wait, what? I thought you were supposed to hug me. Wait, I think I did that shit backwards. All out of love. Look at y'all, just got ridiculous money in the chat room. Job 411 got 20 million. Southern Gypsy got damn 2 billion almost. She like, nigga, I got it. Mother Nature gives a huge hug to SparkzAlot. How in the fuck did it do? That shit was backwards earlier. Like, it said that I gave you a hug. I don't know what the hell happened. Maybe I got it set up to where I give people. I don't fucking know. I'm lost. What up, Danny? Danny again. When you here? You was here and left, man. You shouldn't. Why you leave, bro? Damn, I've been on here for 3.5 hours. I gotta go for real. It's way too long. I gotta return phone calls and shit and get some sleep. My hot chocolate ain't gone now. I was trying to. It went both ways. Wow. Me talking about my nightbot like that. That's my nightbot, not the night nurse. I don't know if the night nurse could, but I'm just playing with y'all. I'm crazy. G and Skis, Job 411, Hollywood Solo, man. I appreciate y'all being here. I hope y'all don't hit that thumbs up. If you haven't, I don't know what the hell you waiting on. Make up your mind. Hit one of them thumbs. If you didn't like what you saw today, hit the thumbs down button. Criticize. I don't care. I can take all types of constructive criticism. It don't matter to me. Hit the thumbs down if you want to. Or hit the thumbs up. And don't forget that share button's down there. So it's kind of late now because I'll probably delete this material. Or you know what? It won't be deleted. This video is going to be marked private. And it'll probably be put on my Patreon page. I think I'm going to start just listing all my lives on my Patreon. And so if you didn't see it while it was live, the only way you're going to be able to see it again is if you're on my Patreon page. But all my other videos will be regular and shit like they've been. But I usually mark my video, my lives private because they're usually long as hell and sometimes all over the place. But you get to kind of see the real me in my lives. Or not the real me, I guess more of who I am. I don't want to say the real me because I don't feel like I'm any different on camera than I am in real life. I just like to tell it how it is. But yeah, in the live you get to see more of who I am. I really hate that I said the real me. It makes me feel like I'm a actor on here. And cut. Take two. Ladies and gentlemen, it's SparkzAlot, a crazy motherfucker. Yes, I am. Y'all be good, man. Farrah, G and Skis, Mother Nature, Hollywood Solo. Y'all be good. Let me give everybody some monies. I'm gonna give y'all, if you're not a billionaire yet, I'm gonna make you one in the chat room. Real quick before I go. Oh shit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, for real. There go y'all some credits. I made everybody billionaires. If you're stuck in for 3.5 hours, or even if you was just in here for the last 5 minutes, you're cool with me, man. You guys are fucking awesome. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. It's Sunday, officially. Sunday, I think. Right? Yeah, it's Sunday now. Because yesterday was Saturday. I don't know. I don't have a set schedule, so my days are always all over the place. The only way I know it's a weekday is if my daughter gets up and goes to school. I think that's about the most routine thing that happens in my life. Is my daughter gets up and goes to school during the week. And on the weekends, hey, is it Saturday or is it Sunday? I don't know. It's Sunday, for real. Y'all have a good Sunday somewhere. 5 minutes, 420 somewhere. Well, you guys might have to celebrate it alone. Or not alone, but not with me, because I'm getting tired, man. For real. I got to pass out. It's past my bedtime, y'all. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old. No, if you guys want me to stay and celebrate this last 420, it's in 4 minutes. If you guys want me to stay, I need you to type in stay in the chat room. Type in stay, SparkzAlot, and then I need you to write the word please. I need you to write it like on Roger Rabbit, man. When Roger Rabbit was like, please. I can't make my lip to flap like that nigga. She was like, please. Please. How you spell that shit? Is that like PBPBPBPBBBBBBBLEASE? Please. Let me stop, man. I'm gonna really stop. You don't know nothing about that Roger Rabbit, man. That motherfucker standing in front of that damn steamroller just yelling like, ah, don't run me over. Like, he could have laid down and fucking turned the other way and just rolled out of the way by the time that shit came and flattened his ass like a pancake. But he didn't. He just, that shit was funny as hell, bro. Who framed Roger Rabbit? You remember Jessica Rabbit's ugly twin in that movie? That bitch was ugly, boy. She was fucked. We call her baghead. No, a butterhead. Everything looked good, but her head, man, ew. Anyways, for real, y'all be good. Wait, are we doing this 420 or what, man? Did I get a please in here? I got a please. I got 2. I got 3 pleases. Okay, fuck it. I'll stay. I'll do this last bong rip. We got 2 minutes for the 420. Bells and whistles and glitter and shit. Is this bowl cast? I don't even know if this bowl is cast. I'm gonna do a pre-420. I'm gonna check and see if everything's working. Something's not right, man. Something's not right. I gotta get this working, man. I found the problem. There's nothing in the combustible circumference right there. I gotta put something in the combustible circumference in order for my device to work, my doohickey to work. So we're gonna load we're gonna put some fuel in the combustible circumference, and the combustible circumference hole. We're gonna slide it up in there, and we're gonna put something in there. We're gonna get fuel it up. We're gonna get ready to get gassed up, and then we're gonna get it back. It's 19 after, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I appreciate y'all being here, man. I really do. But I gotta get some sleep. I gotta be up in less than some hours. I'm not gonna tell y'all because I don't need nobody trying to come look for me. And he's at work, guys. Let's go in there. All eyes on me. Fuck your feelings. Yes, I tried to tell people a long time ago, get off your ass if you plan to be rich. Man, you can't get rich sitting at home on the couch like the guy, man. You think he rich? No, he ain't rich. Anyways, is it 419? Is 420 yet? No, it's not 420. Shit. Gotta make a heat for the night. Mister, I'm lost. Heist, Tupac, my dude. I know, right? No more Magnum ice cream talk. Don't be getting mad. Won't you Postmate me some Magnum ice cream or something? I'm just fucking with you. I don't want no ice cream. I got an ice cream cake in the freezer. And I got ding dongs in the cabinet, so I'm good. My chocolate ding dongs. And my ice cream cakes. Cheers, guys. Happy 420, y'all. Happy 420. Ow. That was like one of them deep ass bass. Shit. Whew. That was like one of them deep ass bass calls. Like that was way in there. Like, oh my gosh. I was trying to inhale my bong as long as the 420 thing was on, and that shit was too much. It was just too fucking much. Like, my lungs is asking my body why right now. Just, dude, why? I felt like I took a dab down there. Like, damn, bro. Bro, I can't hit that shit, man. Damn, I left a lot of smoke in there. That was almost the tube. Damn near the whole tube was full of smoke still, but that shit was still. I wasn't finna hit that. I'm sorry. Not finna die today. My lungs ain't finna fuck me up for y'all be good. On that note, y'all go listen to some Tupac, man. We can all listen to Tupac. We can have a Tupac listening party. Everybody go listen to this Tupac song, their favorite Tupac song right now. And we'll all be listening to Tupac. For real. As always, light up, Toke Up, blaze up, smoke up. If you like your concentrates, get your dab on. And if you like your edibles, get your snack on, man. It's Mr.SparkzAlot signing out from Paradise, Lost Wages, Nevada, man. Until I see y'all again, stay elevated, medicated, all that good shit. Take care of one another, man. And like ET says, be good. Be good. Be good, motherfuckers. Be good. For real. Be good. Is this thing on? Stop fucking recording. Stop streaming. Did I push stop? I didn't even know. I don't know. Did I push it? I gotta push it again.